The chocolate croissant exploded against the back of her head. Victoria Harrington screamed with delight, clapping her manicured hands together like she was watching fireworks on the 4th of July. "Yes, Connor. That's my boy. That's what happens when trash doesn't know its place." Her 12-year-old son was already reaching for another pastry, grinning ear to ear. The black woman sitting alone at the corner table didn't turn around. Chocolate dripped down her neck, staining her blazer, pooling on the white linen tablecloth. She didn't move, didn't speak. But her hand slipped quietly into her pocket. What the Harringtons didn't know, what nobody in that country club knew, was that the woman they had just assaulted was worth more than everyone in that room combined. And she was recording everything. Before we continue, I want to invite you to subscribe to our channel and follow this story until the very end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let me tell you how one chocolate croissant destroyed a family worth $800 million. Dr. Maya Richardson had spent 43 years learning how to be invisible. Not invisible in the way most people think. She had built Richardson Defense Technologies from a garage in Newark to a company worth $2.3 billion. She employed 12,000 people across 8 states. Forbes had put her on their cover 3 months ago. She had testified before Congress, dined with 3 different presidents, and shaken hands with generals who commanded armies. But none of that mattered when she walked into a room where nobody knew her name. On this Saturday morning in May, sitting alone at a corner table in Oak Ridge Country Club, Dr. Maya Richardson was invisible again. And this time it was intentional. Robert Sterling had called her 2 weeks earlier. He was the club president, an old money man who understood that survival meant adaptation. "Dr. Richardson, we'd like to discuss a partnership," he had said. $5 million over 3 years for our STEM scholarship program. Your company provides funding. We provide facilities and access. It's a win-win. Maya had listened without interrupting. She had heard pitches like this before. Country clubs across Connecticut had been reaching out ever since her Forbes cover hit newsstands. They wanted her money. They wanted her name on their brochures. They wanted to check a diversity box and call it progress. "I have one condition," she had told him. "Name it. I want to see your culture firsthand, not as a CEO, not as a donor, not as someone you're trying to impress. I want to come as a guest nobody recognizes. I want to watch how your members treat people they assume don't belong." Robert Sterling had gone quiet. She could practically hear him calculating risks on the other end of the line. "That's unusual. That's my condition. And if you don't like what you see, then you don't get my money. And I tell every CEO I know exactly what kind of club you're running." He agreed. What choice did he have? "Saturday's benefactor brunch," he said. "I'll put you on the guest list personally. Come as you are." Come as you are. So she did. Maya wore dark jeans she had bought at Target 3 years ago. A simple navy blazer from Nordstrom Rack. Small gold studs her mother had given her the day she graduated from MIT. She pulled her natural hair back into a simple twist. No extensions, no straightening, no apology. No designer bag, no flashy watch, no makeup beyond the basics. She looked like someone's assistant, someone's secretary, someone who had wandered in by mistake and didn't know the difference between a salad fork and a dessert fork. That was exactly the point. She arrived at 11:15. The hostess, a young white woman with a smile that had been practiced in front of mirrors, looked her up and down before checking the guest list. Name, Maya Richardson. Mr. Sterling invited me personally. The hostess found her name. Her smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "Of course, right this way." She led Maya to a corner table near the windows, far from the center of the terrace, far from the important people, far from where anyone would have to look at her unless they chose to. "Your server will be right with you, ma'am." Maya sat down. She pulled out her tablet and began reviewing quarterly reports. To anyone watching, she looked like an assistant preparing documents for her boss. Nobody gave her a second glance. Nobody except one person. The recording app on her phone had been running since she walked through the door. She had learned a long time ago to document everything, every insult, every microaggression, every moment when people revealed exactly who they were because they thought no one important was watching. 23 minutes. That was how long it took for the Harringtons to notice the black woman sitting alone in the corner. Victoria Harrington spotted her first. Victoria was 45 years old. Blonde highlights that cost $400 every 6 weeks. Botox injections that had frozen her forehead into permanent surprise. Lips that had been filled so many times they looked like they might burst if she smiled too hard. Her Instagram bio read luxury lifestyle influencer, and she had 47,000 followers who double-tapped their screens every time she posted another photo of a Range Rover, or a Hermes bag, or a weekend in the Hamptons. She ran the Ladies' Auxiliary Committee at Oak Ridge. She controlled the social calendar. She decided who got invited to which parties. She decided who belonged and who didn't. 2 years ago, she had personally blocked 3 families of color from membership. Her words in the committee minutes were careful, the kind of language that lawyers couldn't touch, cultural fit concerns, traditional values alignment, preserving community character. Everyone on that committee knew exactly what she meant. Victoria was mid-conversation with 2 other women when she spotted Maya across the terrace. Her face twisted like she had just smelled something rotten. Oh, hell no. The women she was talking to stopped mid-sentence. What is it, Victoria? Look. Victoria pointed with a manicured nail, not even trying to be subtle about it. Corner table. By the windows. They looked. Some random black woman going through papers. Who the hell let her in? Richard Harrington looked up from his 3rd mimosa of the morning. What's the problem? The problem is, we have an intruder, Richard. Look at her. Jeans. At Oak Ridge, during the benefactor brunch. Richard squinted across the room. He was 52 years old. 3rd-generation wealth. His grandfather had started Harrington Properties in 1958 with money that nobody asked too many questions about. And now Richard ran the whole thing. $890 million in assets. Shopping centers. Office parks. Luxury apartment buildings. Richard was very good at inheriting things. He wasn't particularly good at anything else. Probably just the help, he said dismissively, turning back to his drink. Maybe she's setting up for a presentation or something. Someone's assistant. She's sitting at a member's table, Richard, going through corporate documents like she owns the place. She is not staff. Their son Connor looked up from his phone. He was 12 years old, already taller than his mother, with the kind of face that adults called handsome and other children called mean. He had been expelled from 2 private schools for bullying. The official reasons were behavioral concerns and failure to adapt to community standards. But everyone knew the real stories. The kid he had shoved down a flight of stairs. The girl whose hair he had set on fire with a lighter he'd stolen from his father's desk. The teacher he had called a racial slur in front of the entire class. His 3rd academy had only accepted him after his parents donated a new library wing. $2.3 million to make their son's problems disappear. Connor had never heard the word no and meant it. He had never faced a consequence that his parents couldn't write a check to erase. Who are we talking about? Connor asked, looking up from his phone. Nobody important, sweetheart. Victoria's voice dripped with the kind of contempt she usually reserved for servants who brought the wrong wine. Just another charity case who wandered in and doesn't know her place. Connor craned his neck to look at Maya. A slow smile spread across his face. The same smile he had worn right before he pushed that kid down the stairs. Watch this. He grabbed a chocolate croissant from the bread basket. Before his parents could react, before anyone could say a word, he wound up like a major league pitcher and threw. The pastry sailed across the terrace in a perfect arc. It hit Maya Richardson square in the back of the head. Chocolate exploded through her hair. Chunks of croissant scattered across her shoulders. Brown streaks ran down her neck, staining the collar of her white blouse, dripping onto the documents spread out in front of her. Victoria Harrington screamed with delight. Yes, Connor. Oh my God. Yes. She was clapping, actually clapping like her son had just scored the winning touchdown at a championship game. That's what happens when trash doesn't know its place. She was laughing so hard tears streamed down her cheeks. Her whole body shook with it. Other diners turned to look at the commotion. Some smiled nervously. Some looked away. Some pulled out their phones. Nobody moved to help. Maya sat frozen. Chocolate dripped from her hair onto her documents. Quarterly projections she had spent 3 weeks preparing. Strategic plans for the next fiscal year. Government contracts worth hundreds of millions of dollars. All of it stained brown. She didn't turn around. Her hands trembled as she reached for her napkin. She began dabbing at the chocolate with slow, controlled movements. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Her therapist's voice echoed in her head the same words she had heard 1,000 times. Don't let them see you break. Don't give them the satisfaction. Your dignity is not up for negotiation. Richard Harrington stood up from his table. He pointed across the terrace at Maya, his finger stabbing the air like a weapon. Hey you there. Maya kept dabbing at the chocolate. She didn't turn around. I'm talking to you. Richard's voice boomed across the room. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. You don't belong here. This is a private club. Get out before I have you arrested for trespassing. Now. Maya turned. Her face was calm, eerily calm. Chocolate still streaked her hair, still dripped down her neck, still stained her blazer. But her eyes were steady, clear. The eyes of a woman who had faced worse than this and survived. I was invited, she said quietly, by Mr. Sterling. Victoria burst out laughing again. By Robert Sterling. She slapped the table so hard the silverware rattled. Oh, that's rich. That's absolutely rich. She turned to the women sitting with her. Did you hear that? She claims Robert Sterling invited her? It's true, Maya said. He called me personally 2 weeks ago. Honey! Victoria stood up. Her chair scraped against the marble floor with a sound like nails on a chalkboard. Robert Sterling wouldn't invite someone dressed like that to a benefactor's brunch. Let's be honest here. She crossed the terrace in 5 sharp clicks of Louboutin heels, each step deliberate, each step a statement. She stopped directly behind Maya's chair so close that her perfume was overwhelming. Chanel No. 5. Too much of it. The smell of money and cruelty. Excuse me. Victoria's voice had dropped to ice. This is a members-only event. I'm the president of the Ladies' Auxiliary Committee. I know every person who belongs here. She leaned closer. And I don't recognize you. Maya continued organizing her documents. Papers stained with chocolate. Papers worth more than Victoria's entire jewelry collection. I'm talking to you. Victoria's voice rose. It's basic manners to look at someone when they're speaking to you. Didn't your mother teach you anything? Maya finally turned in her chair. She looked up at Victoria Harrington, this woman who controlled the social calendar. This woman who decided who belonged and who didn't. This woman who had watched her 12-year-old son throw food at a stranger and had applauded. I was invited by Mr. Sterling, Maya said clearly. I have every right to be here. Robert Sterling would never invite someone dressed like that. Victoria gestured at Maya's outfit with undisguised contempt. Jeans at Oak Ridge, during the benefactor brunch. She turned to the watching crowd with a theatrical shrug. What are you, the help? Laughter rippled through the terrace. Not everyone, but enough. Richard had crossed the room to stand beside his wife. He looked Maya up and down like livestock at an auction. Look, miss, nobody wants a scene here. This is a nice event, nice people. Why don't you just leave quietly and we can all pretend this unfortunate misunderstanding never happened? I have an invitation. From who? Victoria crossed her arms. I told you, it was verbal. Mr. Sterling called me personally. How convenient. Victoria's smirk was vicious triumphant. No paper trail, no proof. Just your word against well reality. She turned to address the watching crowd. Anyone can walk in off the street and claim they were invited. That doesn't make it true. Right? A few people nodded. Some looked uncomfortable. Nobody spoke up. Richard pulled out his phone. "I'm calling Robert right now. We'll get this sorted out." He dialed, held the phone to his ear, waited. Damn it, voicemail. He's probably on the golf course. Of course he is. Victoria's smile grew wider. So we have no proof you were invited. You're wearing jeans to a formal event, and you're going through corporate documents that clearly don't belong to you. Before Maya could react, Victoria reached across the table and snatched one of her papers. She held it up to the light like a detective examining evidence. Richardson Defense Technologies Q2 Aerospace Projections. Victoria read the header aloud, her voice mocking. Oh my God, this is rich. She turned to show the crowd. Did you steal these from some office, honey? Is this corporate espionage? Should we call the police? Maya stood slowly. She was 3 inches taller than Victoria in her simple flats. That's confidential corporate property. I need it back. Now. Or what? Victoria held the paper higher out of Maya's reach. You'll call your lawyer, sweetie. Lawyers cost money. Real money. Not whatever they pay you to clean offices. She looked at the paper one more time. Then she ripped it in half. The sound was like a gunshot in the silent room. Victoria ripped it in half again, and again, and again. The pieces fluttered to the marble floor like confetti at a funeral. Oops. Victoria's smile was pure poison. Butterfingers. The terrace went dead silent. Even the violins in the corner stopped playing. Even the servers froze in place. Maya's hands curled into fists at her sides. Her jaw tightened. But when she spoke, her voice was level, controlled, deadly calm. You just destroyed confidential corporate property worth more than your country club membership. Richard laughed out loud. Lady, I don't know what office you clean, but those documents belong to your employer, not you. He stepped closer. Close enough that Maya could smell bourbon on his breath at 11:30 in the morning. Let me guess. You're somebody's secretary, administrative assistant. You came to pick up some papers for your boss and got lost. Maybe wandered into the wrong room. Maybe she's catering staff, Victoria added. The uniform room is through the kitchen, honey. Down the hall past the bathrooms. You can't miss it. More laughter, louder this time. Maya bent down to pick up the torn pieces of her document. Her knees touched the cold marble floor. Her hands shook as she gathered the fragments. Connor Harrington saw his opportunity. He darted forward from behind his parents, moving fast, and kicked Maya's briefcase as hard as he could. The briefcase toppled over. Documents exploded across the floor. Pens rolled in every direction. Her tablet clattered against the marble with a crack that probably meant a shattered screen. A red leather folder skidded under another table. USB drives scattered like dropped coins. Connor? Victoria's voice was delighted, not scolding, not even close to scolding. Stop that, sweetheart. You'll get your new shoes dirty. She was laughing again. That shrieking, delighted laugh. The laugh of a woman who had never been told no in her entire privileged life. Maya dropped to her hands and knees. She crawled across the marble floor, gathering papers that were now stained with chocolate and footprints. Government contracts, strategic proposals, confidential research data. The work of months scattered across a country club floor while rich people watched and laughed. Chocolate from her hair dripped onto the documents as she crawled. Richard Harrington watched her with a mixture of disgust and amusement. Look, sweetheart. His voice dripped with condescension so thick you could cut it with a knife. I don't know what diversity hire program landed you here, but Oak Ridge is a private club. We have standards. We have traditions. We have a certain type of person who belongs here. He said the word diversity, like it tasted rotten in his mouth. Victoria circled Maya slowly, like a shark smelling blood in the water. What Richard is trying to say as politely as possible is that you'd be more comfortable at the public facilities in town. You know, the community center, the public library. Places where people like you usually spend their time. People like you. The words hung in the air like poison gas. Nobody pretended anymore. Nobody pretended this was about dress codes or invitations or proper etiquette. This was about the color of Maya's skin. It had always been about the color of her skin. Everything else was just decoration. Maya stayed on her knees gathering papers. Her face was stone, but her eyes glistened. Marcus Thompson stood near the kitchen doors watching everything. He was 53 years old, black. He had worked at Oak Ridge Country Club for 30 years. He had started as a busboy at 23 and worked his way up to general manager. 3 decades of service. 3 decades of watching scenes like this play out over and over again. He had seen everything, heard everything, and he had learned through bitter experience to say nothing. He had bills to pay, a mortgage on a house in Bridgeport, 2 grandchildren he was helping put through college, a pension he was 3 years away from collecting. He watched Maya Richardson crawling on the floor, gathering papers, while chocolate dripped from her hair, and his jaw clenched so tight he thought his teeth might crack. His fists tightened at his sides until his knuckles went white. But he stayed where he was. He didn't move. He couldn't afford to move. Margaret Chen, 72 years old, sitting at table 7 with her husband Harold, started to rise from her chair. "Victoria, that's enough. This has gone too far. Someone should help that poor woman." Harold grabbed her wrist and yanked her back down into her seat. His grip was hard enough to leave bruises. "Margaret, don't." "But Harold, this is wrong. What they're doing is—" "I said stay out of it." His voice was a harsh whisper. "The Harringtons are important people. We don't need enemies. We don't need trouble. Just sit down and be quiet." Margaret sat. Her hands trembled in her lap. Everyone sat. Everyone watched. Everyone stayed in their seats while a woman crawled on the floor and a 12-year-old boy stood over her grinning. Nobody helped. Maya gathered the last document. A contract with the Department of Defense worth $47 million. The signature page was smeared with chocolate. She stood up slowly. Her knees ached from the cold marble. Her blazer was ruined. Her hair was matted with chocolate and croissant crumbs. Her blouse was stained. Her dignity was in shreds on the floor along with her documents. But her spine was straight. She looked at Victoria, at Richard, at Connor, who was still grinning like he had won some kind of prize. "I understand perfectly," Maya said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried across the silent terrace. "I understand more than you could possibly know." She turned toward the exit. 10 tables between her and the door. Every eye in the room followed her. She made it 5 steps. Connor grabbed his glass of orange juice from a passing server's tray. Half full, pulp floating on top. Marcus Thompson saw what was about to happen. He started forward from the kitchen doors. His hand raised his mouth, opening to shout a warning. "Connor, no!" Too late. Connor wound up and threw. The orange juice hit Maya square in the back. Cold liquid soaked through her blazer, through her blouse, through to her skin. Pulp slid down her spine like something alive. Victoria Harrington's shriek of laughter echoed off the vaulted ceiling. She doubled over, clutching her stomach like she might collapse from the sheer joy of it all. "Oh my God, Connor, oh my God." She could barely breathe. "Did you see that? Did everyone see that?" Richard high-fived his son, their palms connected with a sharp crack that echoed across the terrace. "That's my boy. That's my boy." Other parents at nearby tables smiled. Some shook their heads in mock disapproval, but couldn't hide their amusement. A few looked away, unable to watch anymore, but still unwilling to say a word. Maya stopped walking. She stood perfectly still in the middle of the terrace. Orange juice dripped from her blazer onto the marble floor, forming a small puddle around her feet. The puddle grew larger with each passing second. Drip, drip, drip. She didn't turn around. She didn't speak. Her shoulders rose and fell with each breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth, The breathing exercises her therapist had taught her. The techniques she had learned over decades of being the only black woman in rooms full of people who didn't think she belonged. Then she reached into her pocket. She pulled out her phone. The screen glowed in the late morning light. A red recording bar stretched across the top. Numbers counting upward. Recording 2347, 2348, 2349. She tapped stop. She watched the file save. She watched the confirmation appear. Recording saved successfully. 23 minutes and 49 seconds. Every word, every laugh, every insult, every moment of cruelty captured in perfect digital clarity. Then Maya turned around. Her face was calm, not angry, not tearful, not humiliated, just calm. The kind of calm that comes before a hurricane makes landfall. The kind of calm that should have terrified everyone watching if they had been smart enough to recognize it. She looked at Victoria, whose laughter was finally dying down. She looked at Richard, who was still beaming at his son like a proud father at a Little League game. She looked at Connor, who was reaching for another glass in case he got a chance to throw again. She looked at every single person in that room who had watched and done nothing. "I'm leaving now," Maya said. Her voice carried across the terrace. Clear, controlled. Every word precise and deliberate. "But I'll be in touch." Victoria waved her hand dismissively, still wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. "Oh, we're so scared. Thomas, where's Thomas? Call security. I want this woman escorted out properly. We should have done this 20 minutes ago." Marcus Thompson didn't move. His eyes met Maya's across the room. 30 years of swallowed words passed between them in that single look. 30 years of watching scenes like this and saying nothing. Recognition, understanding, shame. "That won't be necessary," Maya said. Her eyes found Richard Harrington and locked onto him like a targeting system. "I know the way out." She walked toward the exit. Orange juice and chocolate left a trail behind her on the pristine marble floor. Her heels clicked with each step, measured, deliberate, the walk of a woman who knew exactly where she was going and exactly what she was going to do when she got there. At the door she paused. She turned back one last time. "See you Monday, Mr. Harrington." Richard frowned, the smile finally fading from his face. Something cold flickered in his eyes, the first hint of unease. "Monday. What the hell are you talking about, lady? I don't even know who you are." Maya smiled. It was a cold smile, a thin smile, a smile that didn't come anywhere close to reaching her eyes. "You will." Then she pushed through the doors and was gone. The terrace was silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then Victoria burst into fresh peals of laughter. "Oh my God! Oh my God! Did she just threaten us? Did everyone hear that?" She was already pulling out her phone, her thumbs flying across the screen. "This is going on Instagram immediately. When random crazy people crash your event and then make threats on the way out. Hashtag Oak Ridge Standards. Hashtag You Can't Sit With Us." Richard walked back to their table and dropped heavily into his chair. He picked up his mimosa and drained it in one long swallow. Crazy woman. Probably mentally ill. Probably off her medication. He signaled to a passing server for another drink. "We should talk to Robert about improving security. Can't have random people wandering in off the street." Connor was still buzzing with adrenaline and parental approval. His face was flushed. His eyes were bright. He looked like a kid who had just gotten away with something wonderful. "Did you see her face when the juice hit? That was so awesome. I wish I had gotten it on video." "Maybe next time, sweetheart." Victoria ruffled his hair without looking up from her phone. "You showed her what happens when people don't know their place. I'm so proud of you." "Can we get ice cream after this?" "Of course we can. You earned it." Marcus Thompson stood near the kitchen doors. His fists were still clenched at his sides. His jaw was still tight. His eyes were wet. 30 years. 30 years of watching scenes like this and saying nothing. He turned and walked back into the kitchen. He needed a moment. He needed to breathe. He needed to not look at the Harrington family for at least the next 5 minutes, or he was going to do something that would cost him his pension. Margaret Chen leaned close to her husband at table 7. Her voice was shaking. "Harold, that was wrong. What they did to that woman was wrong. We should have said something. We should have done something." "We did the smart thing, Margaret. We stayed out of it." "But she was just sitting there. She wasn't bothering anyone, and they attacked her. A child attacked her, and everyone just watched." "She shouldn't have been here in the first place. This is a private club. We have standards." "Standards?" Margaret's voice rose. "Is that what we're calling it now? Standards? Keep your voice down." Harold's grip tightened on her wrist. "People are looking." "Let them look. Let them—" "Margaret, enough. This conversation is over." Margaret fell silent. But her hands wouldn't stop trembling, and she couldn't stop seeing the image of that woman on her hands and knees crawling across the marble floor gathering papers while chocolate dripped from her hair. The violins resumed playing. Conversations picked back up around the terrace. Servers returned to their rounds, moving like ghosts in their white gloves and pressed uniforms, eyes carefully downcast. The benefactor brunch continued as if nothing had happened, as if Maya Richardson had never been there at all. Victoria Harrington finished composing her Instagram story. She had snapped a photo from behind as Maya was walking toward the exit. You could see the orange juice stain spreading across her blazer. Her shoulders were slumped. She looked defeated. Victoria added a text overlay. "When random people try crashing our exclusive events. Security handled it though. Love our Oak Ridge community for having our backs." She added stickers, laughing emoji, crying laughing emoji, a gif of someone being shoved through a door, a crown emoji because she was the queen of this particular jungle. Hashtags, Oak Ridge, standards, #private club life, know your place, #blessed, luxury lifestyle. Saturday, brunch, /Connecticut elite. She hit share. The story posted at 11:52 a.m. Within 5 minutes it had 200 views. Within 10 minutes, 400. Within 30 minutes, 3,000, and climbing. Victoria's followers started commenting immediately. "OMG, Victoria, what happened? You're so brave, babe, protecting your community. I would have died if someone crashed my event like that. You handled that so well, Queen." But other comments started appearing too, scattered at first, then more frequent. "This seems really messed up. Wait, what did she actually do wrong? This feels racist, honestly. Why are you posting this? This is really bad. Delete this, Victoria, this is not a good look." Victoria deleted the negative comments as fast as they appeared. She blocked 3 users, then 5 more. She reported 1 account for harassment. She kept scrolling through the positive comments, liking each one, responding with heart emojis and prayer hands. One comment made her pause. "Wait, is that Maya Richardson? She spoke at my university last year. She's a CEO, like a really big CEO." Victoria screenshot the comment and texted it to Richard with 3 laughing emojis and a message. "Some college kid thinks she's a CEO. These people are delusional." Richard didn't respond. He was already on his 4th mimosa trying to shake the uncomfortable feeling that had settled in his stomach the moment Maya had said those words. "See you Monday." What the hell did that mean? He didn't know anyone named Maya Richardson. He had never heard of anyone named Maya Richardson. She was nobody. She was a crazy woman who had wandered into a country club and gotten what she deserved. So why couldn't he stop thinking about the way she had smiled when she said his name 64 minutes after Maya walked out of Oak Ridge Country Club? Richard Harrington's phone rang. He looked at the caller ID. Robert Sterling, club president. Finally. Now they could sort this whole mess out. Robert would understand. Robert would smooth things over. That was what Robert did. Richard answered on the second ring, his voice deliberately casual. "Rob, how's the back 9 treating you?" "Richard." Robert's voice was wrong. Tight, clipped, like he was speaking through clenched teeth. I just got off the golf course. I have 6 text messages and 4 missed calls all about some kind of incident at the brunch. What happened? Oh, that. Richard waved his free hand dismissively. Some woman tried to crash the event, claimed you invited her. Victoria handled it. No big deal. Everything's under control. Some woman. Robert's voice dropped an octave. Richard, tell me exactly what happened. Tell me what this woman looked like. I don't know, Rob. Black woman, jeans and a blazer. Completely inappropriate for the dress code. She was going through corporate documents probably stolen. We were just protecting the club. Protecting our members. Oh God. Richard stopped mid-sip of his 5th mimosa. Rob. Oh God, Richard. Oh my God. What's wrong? What did you do to her? What exactly did you do? We asked her to leave. Victoria might have said some things. Connor threw some food, but it was just a joke. Kids being kids, you know how he is. Richard. Robert's voice cracked. That woman. The woman you just described. That was Maya Richardson. Silence. Richard's mimosa glass froze halfway to his lips. The terrace suddenly felt like it was 1,000 degrees. His collar was choking him. His mouth went dry. What did you just say? Maya Richardson. Dr. Maya Richardson, CEO of Richardson Defense Technologies. I invited her personally to evaluate the club for a $5 million STEM scholarship sponsorship. That's not possible. She asked to come anonymously. She wanted to see how our members treated people they didn't recognize. She dressed down on purpose. But she looked like she was wearing... Like what, Richard? Robert's voice was ice and fire at the same time. Finish that sentence. Tell me what she looked like. She didn't look like a CEO. She built a company worth $2.3 billion. She employs 12,000 people. Forbes put her on their cover 3 months ago. She could buy this country club with her pocket change. Robert paused. What did you do to her, Richard? What did your family do to Dr. Maya Richardson? Richard's mimosa glass slipped from his fingers. It hit the marble floor and shattered. Champagne and orange juice splattered across his Italian leather shoes. His pressed pants, the legs of his chair. He didn't notice. He couldn't notice. His entire body had gone numb. Richard, Robert's voice was sharp. Richard, are you there? What did you do? There was a misunderstanding. Richard's voice sounded far away, like someone else was speaking with his mouth. My son threw some food. It was a joke. Victoria said some things. We didn't know who she was. Your son threw food at a guest I personally invited. Robert's voice rose until it cracked. Are you completely out of your mind? It was just a croissant. Just a croissant? Just a croissant, Richard. And orange juice. Maybe. I think Connor threw orange juice too. Oh my God. But we didn't know, Rob. You have to understand. We didn't know who she was. She looked like, if we had known. That's exactly the problem, Richard. You didn't need to know. You should treat every guest with basic human dignity, regardless of who they are or what they look like. Rob, you have to help me fix this. You have to... I have to do absolutely nothing. Robert's voice had gone cold. Flat. The voice of a man building walls. I have to protect this club from the catastrophic publicity nightmare you and your family just created. I have to explain to our board why our biggest potential donor was assaulted during a membership event. I have to... The line went dead. Robert Sterling had hung up on him. In 30 years of knowing each other, Robert Sterling had never hung up on Richard Harrington. Richard stared at his phone like it was a live grenade. Then he opened Google with trembling fingers and typed, Maya Richardson CEO. The search results loaded. His blood turned to ice water. Forbes profile, from garage startup to defense giant. How Dr. Maya Richardson built a billion-dollar empire. Recent interviews with CNN, CNBC, Bloomberg. Corporate headshot in a perfectly tailored suit. TED Talk with 2.3 million views. Award ceremony photos. handshakes with senators, dinner with the vice president. He clicked on the Images tab. There she was. Professional photo. Perfect makeup. Hair styled elegantly. Confident smile. Blazer and pearls. The picture of success and power. The same face. The same woman. The same woman his son had pelted with food while his wife laughed and clapped and cheered. Richard's stomach dropped like an elevator with cut cables. His vision blurred. His hands shook so badly he could barely hold the phone. He scrolled frantically, desperately looking for some sign that this was wrong, that this was a different Maya Richardson, that this was all some terrible coincidence. He found the Richardson Defense Technologies website, corporate news, current projects, government contracts, and there in the announcements section a link that made his heart stop completely. Headquarters Campus Project Request for Proposals Final Stage. He clicked. The page loaded with agonizing slowness. There was his company name. Right there at the top of the bidder list. Harrington Properties Group lead bidder. Status. Under final review. Final decision meeting. Monday, 9:00 a.m. 29 hours away. $1.5 billion. The biggest contract of his career. The biggest contract of his life. 6 months of preparation. Hundreds of hours of work. His best architects, his best engineers. His entire reputation on the line. And the woman making the final decision was the same woman who was probably still finding chocolate in her hair. Richard's legs gave out. He collapsed back into his chair. The broken mimosa glass crunched under his feet. Champagne soaked into his socks. Victoria. His voice came out as a strangled whisper. Victoria, get over here, right now. She was 3 tables away, surrounded by friends, gesturing dramatically as she recounted the morning's entertainment, acting out Connor's throwing motion, imitating the way Maya had looked gathering papers on her hands and knees, getting huge laughs. What? She didn't even turn to look at him. I'm in the middle of telling everyone about our exciting morning. Now. Something in his voice cut through the laughter. Victoria's smile flickered. She excused herself and walked over, irritation plain on her face. What's wrong with you? You look like you've seen a ghost. You look like you're going to be sick. That woman. Richard could barely form the words. The woman Connor threw food at. What about her? She's gone. Good riddance. That was Maya Richardson. Victoria blinked. Who? Maya Richardson, CEO of Richardson Defense Technologies. The company I've been trying to land for 6 months. The $1.5 billion headquarters contract. Victoria's face went white. No, that's not possible. She wasn't. I just Googled her, Victoria. It's her. The same face, the same woman. CEO of a company worth $2.3 billion. Forbes cover 3 months ago. Victoria grabbed his phone. Her perfectly manicured fingers scrolled through the images, the articles, the Wikipedia page. Her face went from white to gray to something approaching green. Oh my God. Her voice was small, like a child who had just realized the scope of their mistake. Oh my God, Richard. The final decision meeting is Monday morning, 29 hours from now. She decides whether we get the contract or not. But we didn't know. Victoria's voice rose with panic. If we had known who she was, we never would have. I mean, she looked like she was wearing. I know what she was wearing. Richard's voice cracked. That doesn't change anything. We assaulted a client, Victoria. We assaulted a client worth $2.3 billion. In front of 100 witnesses. Your son threw the food. Your son. Our son. The son you were applauding like he'd just won an Olympic medal. Keep your voice down. Victoria glanced around. People are staring. Let them stare. Let the whole world stare. It's going to get a lot worse than staring. Victoria suddenly went even paler. Instagram. What? The Instagram story. I posted a video of her walking out with the orange juice on her blazer. Richard felt like he might actually have a heart attack. "Tell me you deleted it." "I'll delete it right now, right now." Victoria pulled out her phone with shaking hands. She opened Instagram, navigated to her stories. The video was still there. Views 3,847. Shares 64. Growing every second. She hit delete. A message popped up. "Story has been shared. Deletion may not remove all copies." "No." Victoria jabbed at the screen. "No, no, 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 no. Delete. Delete." But it was already too late. Screenshots had been taken. The video had been saved, shared to other platforms, texted to group chats, posted on Twitter, uploaded to TikTok. The internet had it now. And the internet never, ever forgets. "What do we do?" Victoria's voice was shrill, hysterical. "We apologize, right? We send flowers, a huge donation. We explain it was a misunderstanding, a case of mistaken identity. Rich people forgive rich people. That's how it works. That's always how it works." Richard laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man watching his entire world collapse around him like a house of cards in a hurricane. "We're not rich like her, Victoria." "What are you talking about? We're one of the wealthiest families in Connecticut. Her company is worth $2.3 billion. Our entire net worth is $890 million. Less than half." He looked at his wife with hollow eyes. "We're not even in the same league. We're not even playing the same sport." His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered without thinking. "Hello, Mr. Harrington." A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. The voice of someone who asks questions for a living. "This is Rebecca Foster from the Connecticut Post. We've received information about an incident at Oak Ridge Country Club this morning involving Dr. Maya Richardson. Would you care to comment?" Richard hung up. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. He declined. Another call. Another number. Declined. Text message from his business partner. "Richard, I'm seeing something on Twitter about Oak Ridge. What the hell happened? Call me." Text message from his VP of Operations. "Boss, we need to talk. Urgent. People are asking questions." Text message from his mother. "Richard, dear, someone sent me a very disturbing video. Please tell me that's not your son throwing food at someone." Email notification. His phone buzzed in his hand. Subject: Richardson Defense Technologies Meeting Status Update. His heart stopped. Actually stopped. For a full 3 seconds he was clinically dead inside. He opened the email with trembling fingers. The first word hit him like a bullet. Delayed. Dear Mr. Harrington, due to unforeseen circumstances, the final presentation meeting scheduled for Monday, June 3rd at 9:00 a.m. has been postponed. New meeting details will be provided at a later date. We apologize for any inconvenience. Richardson Defense Technologies Office of the CEO. Richard's phone slipped from his numb fingers and clattered to the marble floor, landing in the puddle of spilled mimosa. He didn't pick it up. He just sat there, surrounded by broken glass and spilled champagne and the ruins of everything he thought he knew about how the world worked. Victoria was saying something. Her voice was high and frantic. Her hands were waving. But the words didn't make sense. Nothing made sense. "See you Monday, Mr. Harrington." Now he understood. Now he finally understood what that smile had meant. Across town, in a home office that cost more than the Harringtons Country Club membership, Dr. Maya Richardson sat at her desk and watched the view counter on Victoria's deleted Instagram story climb. The story was gone, but the screenshots were everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Reddit. The video had been saved and reposted dozens of times. Maya's phone buzzed. Her attorney, Denise Carter. She answered. "Did you get it?" Every word. Maya looked at her laptop. The audio file was already uploaded to a secure cloud server. 3 backup copies on 3 different continents. 23 minutes and 49 seconds. Crystal clear. And you have witnesses. 100 people watched it happen. 5 different people were recording on their phones. The club manager saw everything, and Victoria Harrington posted a video on Instagram before I even got to my car. Denise was quiet for a moment. Maya, this is everything. Assault, battery, defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We can file Monday. What about criminal charges? Possible. The DA will want to review. Child assault statutes are complicated when the perpetrator is a minor, but the parents are absolutely liable for supervision. They encouraged it. They applauded it. We have that on tape. Good. Maya touched her hair. It was still sticky with chocolate. She had showered twice, but couldn't get the smell out. Couldn't get the feeling of orange juice sliding down her spine out of her memory. How far do you want to take this? Denise asked carefully. Maya looked at her blazer hanging over the back of a chair. The orange juice stain had already set. It would never come out. That blazer was ruined forever, just like her documents, just like her mourning, just like her faith that things had gotten better since she was a child. All of it, Maya said. I want all of it. I want them to feel every single consequence. I want the whole world to see what they did. Then that's what we'll do. Denise's voice had a smile in it. I'm going to make some calls. The NAACP has been building a case against Oak Ridge for 2 years. Apparently, Victoria Harrington personally blocked 3 families of color from membership. There might be grounds for a class action. Good. Let me know what you find. Maya hung up. She sat in silence for a long moment staring at her laptop screen. Then she opened her email and began composing a message to her PR team. Subject: Prepare press release. Press conference. Monday, 11:00 a.m. The Harringtons thought they could treat her like trash because she didn't look like she mattered. They were about to learn exactly how wrong they were. The clock on Richard Harrington's phone read 2:47 p.m. when his world started falling apart piece by piece. He had spent the last 3 hours trying to fix something that couldn't be fixed. He had called Robert Sterling 11 times. Voicemail every single time. He had drafted and deleted 15 different apology emails to Maya Richardson, each one sounding more pathetic than the last. Victoria sat across from him in their living room, still in her brunch clothes, mascara running down her cheeks in black rivers. Connor was upstairs in his room, completely oblivious to the destruction he had set in motion. We need to go to her house, Victoria said suddenly. Show up in person. Bring flowers. Bring a check. A big check. People like her respond to money. We don't know where she lives. Then find out you have connections. Use them. Richard's phone buzzed. He looked at it with dread that had become as familiar as breathing. Text from his CFO. Richard, 3 of our investors just called. They're asking about some video online. What's happening? His hands shook as he typed back, handling it. Nothing to worry about. The lie tasted bitter in his mouth. Victoria's phone buzzed at the same moment. She looked at it, and her face crumbled. What? Richard asked. My followers. I'm down to 42,000. Victoria, we have bigger problems than your Instagram followers. 5,000 people unfollowed me in 3 hours. Richard, 5,000. That's never happened before. Never. Richard didn't have the energy to explain that 5,000 Instagram followers were nothing compared to what they were about to lose. He didn't have the energy to explain anything. His phone rang. His lawyer. Finally, someone useful. James, thank God. I need help. Richard, what the hell did you do? James Morrison's voice was sharp. I'm getting calls from reporters. Calls from other attorneys. Someone sent me a video of your wife laughing while your son threw food at a black woman. It was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, Richard. I've seen the video. There's no misunderstanding. Your son assaulted someone. Your wife encouraged it. You threatened to have her arrested. We didn't know who she was. That doesn't matter. That's not how the law works. You don't get to assault people just because you don't recognize them. Richard closed his eyes. His head was pounding. What do we do? Right now, nothing. You say nothing to anyone. No statements, no social media, no contact with the victim. Do you understand me? Anything you say can and will be used against you. But I need to apologize. I need to explain. The worst thing you can do right now is try to explain. Every word out of your mouth is a liability. Every text you send, every email, everything can be used in court. Court? Victoria's voice went shrill. She had been listening on speaker. What do you mean court? We're not going to court over this. It was just some food, a prank. Boys will be boys. James was quiet for a moment. Victoria, I need you to understand something very clearly. Your son committed assault and battery, in front of 100 witnesses, on video, against a woman who happens to be one of the most powerful CEOs in America. A woman who has the resources to sue you into oblivion and the platform to destroy your reputation before you even get to trial. But she provoked us. She didn't belong there. She was dressed inappropriately. Stop talking. James's voice was ice. Victoria, stop talking right now. I mean it. If you say one more word, I'm going to hang up this phone and you can find yourself another lawyer. Victoria's mouth snapped shut. Now listen to me very carefully. Both of you. Do not contact Maya Richardson. Do not contact anyone at Oak Ridge Country Club. Do not contact anyone at Richardson Defense Technologies. Do not post anything on social media. Do not respond to any reporters. Do not leave your house unless absolutely necessary. Am I clear? Yes, Richard whispered. I'll call you tomorrow when I know more. Until then, pray that she decides not to press charges. The line went dead. Victoria stared at her husband. Press charges. He said press charges. Richard, what does he mean press charges? Richard didn't answer. He couldn't. His throat had closed up and his heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode. His phone buzzed again. Email notification. Subject, Harrington Properties Contract Review. His stomach dropped through the floor. He opened it with fingers that felt like they belonged to someone else. Dear Mr. Harrington, due to recent information that has come to our attention, Henderson Shopping Group is conducting an internal review of all ongoing contracts with Harrington Properties. During this review period, all current projects will be placed on hold pending further evaluation. We will be in touch with next steps. Henderson Shopping Group Legal Department. Hold. They were putting his contracts on hold. $18 million in active projects with Henderson Shopping Group. Shopping center renovations. Parking structure expansions. Commercial lease negotiations. All of it frozen. Because of a chocolate croissant. Richard, Victoria's voice seemed very far away. Richard, what is it? You've gone pale. You look like you're going to faint. He handed her the phone without a word. She read the email. Her hand flew to her mouth. They can't do this. Henderson has been our partner for 12 years. Gerald Henderson was at our wedding. They can do whatever they want, Victoria. It's business. And right now, we're a liability. But it's not fair. Richard laughed. It was a broken sound. A sound like glass shattering. Fair, you want to talk about fair. We treated a woman like garbage because of the color of her skin and the clothes she was wearing. We watched our son throw food at her and we applauded. We filmed her humiliation and posted it online for the whole world to see. And now you want to talk about what's fair. We didn't know who she was. That's the whole point, Richard was shouting now. He couldn't help it. That's exactly the point, Victoria. We didn't know who she was, so we thought we could treat her like dirt. We thought we could get away with it, because she looked like nobody, like she didn't matter. Lower your voice. The staff will hear. Let them hear. Let the whole world hear. It's going to get a lot worse than some overheard shouting. Victoria burst into tears. This is your fault, she sobbed. You're the one who stood up and yelled at her. You're the one who threatened to have her arrested. My fault. My fault. Your son threw the food, you tore up her documents. You posted the video online. He's your son too. And you've been spoiling him rotten for 12 years. You've been teaching him that he can do whatever he wants, without consequences. That rules don't apply to people like us. Well, guess what, Victoria? The rules apply now. The rules definitely apply now. Upstairs, a door slammed. They both froze. Connor appeared at the top of the stairs, his face red with anger. Why are you yelling at each other? What's going on? Richard and Victoria exchanged looks. The kind of looks parents exchange when they realize they've been having an adult conversation in front of a child. Nothing, sweetheart, Victoria said quickly, wiping her eyes. Your father and I were just having a discussion. About me. I heard my name. You said something about me throwing food. Connor, go back to your room. No, I want to know what's happening. Why is Mom crying? Why does Dad look like that? Richard walked to the bottom of the stairs. He looked up at his son. Really looked at him, maybe for the first time in years. This boy. This child he had created and raised and molded. This child who had been expelled from 2 schools for bullying. This child who had never heard the word no. This child who had looked at a woman minding her own business and decided she deserved to be humiliated. Where had this come from? He knew the answer. He just didn't want to face it. It had come from him, from Victoria, from every lesson they had taught through action and inaction, from every time they had bailed him out of trouble, from every time they had laughed at cruelty and called it cleverness. Connor, come down here. Why? Because I need to talk to you, now. Connor descended the stairs slowly, suspicion on his face. He wasn't used to his father's tone being serious. He wasn't used to anything being serious. What? Richard took a deep breath. The woman at the brunch today. The one you threw food at. What about her? Do you know who she was? Connor shrugged. Some random lady. She didn't belong there. Everyone knew it. How did you know she didn't belong there? She was wearing jeans. And she was... Connor stopped. She was what? Nothing. Say it, Connor. Say what you were going to say. She was different, okay? She didn't look like everyone else. Different how? Connor's face reddened. You know what I mean. I want you to say it. Richard, Victoria interrupted. Leave him alone. He's just a child. He's 12 years old. He's old enough to know right from wrong. He's old enough to understand consequences. Richard turned back to his son. That woman you threw food at. Her name is Maya Richardson. She's a CEO. She runs a company worth over $2 billion. She employs 12,000 people. She has more money than our entire family. Connor's face went blank. What? She was invited to that brunch by the club president. She was there to decide whether or not to donate $5 million. She was also there to decide whether or not to give my company a $1.5 billion contract. The color drained from Connor's face. I didn't know. That's right. You didn't know. You saw a black woman sitting alone and you decided she didn't belong. You decided she deserved to have food thrown at her. You didn't ask any questions. You didn't wait to find out who she was. You just acted. Because that's what we taught you. Richard, stop it, Victoria said. No, he needs to hear this. Richard's voice was shaking now. Connor, do you understand what you've done? Do you understand what your actions might cost this family? I said I didn't know. That's not an excuse. That's the whole problem. You treated her like she was worthless because of what she looked like, because of assumptions you made in 3 seconds. Connor's eyes filled with tears. You were laughing too. Mom was clapping. Everyone was laughing. The words hit Richard like a physical blow, because his son was right. They had been laughing. They had been applauding. They had watched the whole thing happen and done nothing to stop it. Connor hadn't acted alone. He had acted with the full support and encouragement of his parents. Richard sat down heavily on the bottom stair. You're right, he said quietly. We were laughing. We were all laughing. The room was silent, except for Victoria's quiet sobs. "So what happens now?" Connor asked. His voice was small, scared. "Are we in trouble?" Richard looked at his son. His 12-year-old son who had never faced a consequence in his entire life. His son who was about to learn that money couldn't fix everything. "Yes, Connor, we're in trouble. We're in a lot of trouble." The clock read 4:15 p.m. when the first reporter showed up at their gate. Victoria saw the news van through the window and screamed. "Richard, there's a Channel 8 truck outside. There's a woman with a microphone standing at our gate." Richard didn't move from where he was sitting. He had been staring at the wall for the past hour, watching his phone buzz with notifications he was too afraid to check. "Don't answer the door. Don't go outside. Don't even look at them." But what do they want? They want a comment. They want to put us on camera. They want to watch us squirm. How did they find our address? "We're listed in the public records, Victoria. We're one of the most prominent families in Greenwich. It wasn't exactly hard." Victoria paced back and forth in front of the window, careful to stay out of sight. "Maybe I should talk to them. Give our side of the story. Explain that it was a misunderstanding." "What did the lawyer say? What did I say? We don't talk to anyone. We don't explain anything. Every word we say makes it worse. But if we don't say anything, they'll think we're guilty." "We are guilty, Victoria. We are guilty." His phone rang. He looked at it. A number he didn't recognize, but somehow knew he needed to answer. "Hello. Mr. Harrington, this is Detective Sarah Williams with the Greenwich Police Department. I'm calling regarding an incident that occurred this morning at Oak Ridge Country Club. We've received a complaint and need to schedule an interview with you and your family." Richard's blood turned to ice. "A complaint? From who?" "I'm not at liberty to discuss the details over the phone, sir. When would be a convenient time for you to come to the station?" "I need to call my lawyer." "Of course, sir. Please have your attorney contact us to arrange a time. The sooner we can speak with you, the better for everyone involved." She gave him a number to call and hung up. Richard sat very still, holding his phone like it was a bomb that might go off at any moment. "Who was that?" Victoria asked. "The police." "The police? Why are the police calling?" "It was just some food. It was a prank." Since when do police get involved in pranks? Since when do pranks involve assault and battery? Since when do pranks get posted on Instagram? Since when do pranks happen to billionaire CEOs who have the resources to hire every lawyer in Connecticut? Victoria sat down. She looked like she might be sick. "What are we going to do?" Richard didn't answer. He was already dialing his lawyer. The phone rang 3 times before James answered. "James, the police just called. They want us to come in for an interview." Silence on the other end. "James, are you there?" "I'm here. I'm thinking." "What does this mean? Are they going to arrest us?" "It means she filed a complaint. Or someone did. Probably the club manager witnessed the assault. Under Connecticut law, this could be classified as third-degree assault, which is a Class A misdemeanor. If they decide your son acted with intent to cause harm, they could charge him as a juvenile offender." "Charge him? He's 12. 12-year-olds can be charged, Richard. The juvenile system handles cases like this all the time." "But he's never been in trouble with the law before." "He's been expelled from 2 schools for violence. That's going to come up. That's going to establish a pattern of behavior." Richard felt like the walls were closing in. "What about us, Victoria and me?" "Depends on what they decide about parental liability. You were present when the assault occurred. You didn't intervene. There's video of you high-fiving your son afterward. Video of Victoria encouraging him." "Video? What video?" "It's all over the internet, Richard. Someone at the brunch was recording. Multiple people were recording. The footage is everywhere." Richard pulled up Twitter on his phone. He typed his name into the search bar. His stomach dropped through the floor. Richard Harrington was trending. The first video had 47,000 views. It showed Connor throwing the croissant, showed Victoria clapping, showed Richard standing up and pointing. The comments were brutal. "Arrest this whole family." This is what generational wealth looks like, pure entitlement and racism. Hope she sues them for everything they're worth. That kid is going to grow up to be a monster. Oh wait, he already is. The mom's reaction is the most disgusting part. She was clapping. Richard scrolled. There was more. So much more. Screenshots of Victoria's deleted Instagram story, photos of their house from real estate listings, links to his company website, his LinkedIn profile. Someone had already created a Wikipedia page for the incident. The Oak Ridge Country Club assault. Detailed timeline. Names, photos. His entire life laid bare for strangers to pick apart. "Richard?" James's voice was tinny through the phone. "Are you still there?" "I'm here. I'm going to call the detective and arrange the interview for tomorrow morning. Until then, stay inside. Don't answer the door. Don't talk to reporters. Don't post anything online. And Richard?" "What?" "Start thinking about selling some assets. If Maya Richardson decides to sue, and I have every reason to believe she will, you're going to need a lot of cash for the settlement." The line went dead. Richard put his phone down on the table. He looked at his wife, who was crying silently into her hands. He looked out the window at the news van parked at the end of their driveway. 24 hours ago, he had been one of the most respected businessmen in Greenwich. He had been about to land the biggest contract of his career. He had been planning to celebrate with champagne and expensive dinners and smug satisfaction. Now he was about to be interviewed by police for assault charges. All because of a chocolate croissant and a woman in jeans. The clock read 6:00 p.m. when Connor finally emerged from his room. He had been up there for hours, and when he came downstairs his face was red and blotchy. He had been crying. Richard couldn't remember the last time he had seen his son cry. "Dad." Richard looked up from where he was sitting in the dark, his phone face down on the table, unable to look at another notification. "What is it, Connor?" "I looked her up. Maya Richardson." Richard waited. She grew up in Newark. Her dad was a mechanic. Her mom cleaned houses. Connor's voice was shaky. She got a scholarship to MIT. She started her company in her garage with $10,000 she borrowed from her grandmother. "I know." She donates like $20 million a year to scholarships for kids who can't afford college. "I know." Connor sat down across from his father. "She's a good person, isn't she? Like actually good. Not fake good like some people." Richard nodded slowly. "And I threw food at her." Connor's voice cracked. "I threw food at her head because she was black and wearing jeans." "Yes, you did. I'm a bad person." Richard looked at his son, really looked at him, the tears streaming down his face, the genuine horror in his eyes. The 12-year-old who was finally understanding the weight of his actions. "You're not a bad person, Connor. You did a bad thing. A terrible thing. There's a difference." Mom said it was fine. Mom was laughing. Mom was wrong. I was wrong. We were all wrong. So why did we do it? Why did everyone laugh? Why did nobody help her? Richard didn't have an answer. He had been asking himself the same question for the past 6 hours. "I don't know," he finally said. "I think maybe we've been telling ourselves certain stories for so long that we forgot they were lies." What stories? Stories about who matters and who doesn't. Stories about who belongs and who doesn't. Stories about what kind of people deserve respect. Richard's voice was heavy. We told ourselves those stories so many times that we believed them. And today, those stories hurt someone who didn't deserve it. Connor was quiet for a long moment. "Is she going to send us to jail?" "I don't know." "Are we going to lose our house?" "I don't know." "Is everything going to be different now?" Richard looked out the window at the gathering darkness. At the news van that was still parked at their gate, lights glowing in the evening dimness. At the world that had seemed so solid that morning, and now felt like it was made of sand. "Yes," he said. "Everything is going to be different now." Across town in her home office, Maya Richardson was watching the same news coverage that was terrifying the Harrington family. She had showered 3 times, changed clothes twice, but she could still feel the chocolate in her hair, could still feel the cold splash of orange juice down her spine, could still hear Victoria Harrington's shrieking laugh echoing in her ears. Her attorney had called 6 times with updates. The police complaint had been filed. The NAACP was preparing a statement. 3 network news producers had requested interviews. Her PR team had drafted a press release for the Monday press conference. Clean, professional, devastating. Her board of directors had already voted unanimously to pull the Harrington Properties bid from consideration. $1.5 billion redirected to their second-choice contractor, a company that hadn't assaulted their CEO. Everything was falling into place. So why did she feel so empty? Her phone rang. She looked at the caller ID and felt something shift in her chest. Marcus Thompson, the club manager, the man who had watched everything and done nothing. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. "Hello, Dr. Richardson." His voice was rough, like he had been crying. "This is Marcus Thompson. I was the manager at Oak Ridge today." "I know who you are." Silence. "I'm calling to apologize, not on behalf of the club, not on behalf of anyone else, just me, just for what I did, or didn't do." "You didn't do anything." "That's exactly what I'm apologizing for." Maya was quiet. She could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. "I've worked at that club for 30 years. 30 years of watching things like what happened to you today. 30 years of staying quiet, keeping my head down, telling myself I couldn't afford to speak up." "You have a family to support." "That's not an excuse. That's just the reason I kept giving myself." His voice broke. "You were on your hands and knees gathering papers with chocolate in your hair, and I stood there and watched. I watched that little boy kick your briefcase, and I didn't say a word. 30 years, and I never said a word." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She blinked them back. "You called out to him. When he was about to throw the orange juice, I heard you." Too little too late. It was something. It wasn't enough. It's never been enough. Marcus took a shaky breath. "I'm testifying. I already talked to your attorney. I'm going to tell them everything, not just today. Everything I've seen at that club for 30 years. Every family that got rejected because they weren't the right color. Every comment, every slur, every time someone like Victoria Harrington made someone feel less than human. Marcus, you could lose your job? I'm going to lose my job anyway. The club is going to need a scapegoat, and I've been there too long not to know things they don't want known." He laughed bitterly. "Might as well go out telling the truth for once." Maya closed her eyes. "Thank you for calling, for what it's worth." "It's not worth much, but it's all I've got." He hung up. Maya sat in the darkness of her office, phone in hand, and finally let the tears fall. At 9:00 p.m., Richard Harrington received one final notification that would seal his fate. It was an email from Richardson Defense Technologies. Not from the PR department or the legal team. From the office of the CEO herself. He opened it with trembling hands. "Mr. Harrington, I received your earlier message requesting a meeting. I'm going to grant that request. I'll see you Monday morning. 9:00 a.m. My office. Bring your wife. Bring your son. Dr. Maya Richardson. CEO. Richardson Defense Technologies. P.S. The contract decision has already been made. This meeting is not about business. This meeting is about something you and your family seem to have forgotten: accountability." Richard read the email 3 times. Then he put his head in his hands and wept. Sunday morning arrived like a death sentence. Richard Harrington had not slept. He had spent the entire night sitting in his study, staring at Maya Richardson's email, reading those words over and over, until they were burned into his brain. This meeting is about something you and your family seem to have forgotten: accountability. Victoria found him at 6:00 a.m. still in yesterday's clothes, his eyes bloodshot and hollow. "Richard, have you been here all night?" He didn't answer. "Richard, you need to sleep. You need to eat something. You look terrible." "She wants us there tomorrow, all three of us. Me, you, and Connor." Victoria's face went pale. "Connor? Why does she want Connor there?" "Because Connor is the one who threw the food. Because Connor is the one who started all of this. He's 12 years old. You can't take a 12-year-old to a meeting like that. What is she going to do, interrogate a child? She's going to make him face what he did. She's going to make all of us face what we did." Victoria sat down heavily. "We should refuse. We don't have to go. Our lawyer said we shouldn't have contact with her. Our lawyer also said we shouldn't have assaulted her. Our lawyer said a lot of things we didn't listen to." Richard finally looked at his wife. "We're going, Victoria, all three of us. We're going to sit in that woman's office, and we're going to listen to whatever she has to say. And then what? She humiliates us, and we just take it. Yes, that's exactly what we do, because it's the least we deserve." At 8:00 a.m., Richard's phone rang. His mother. He answered because he knew she would keep calling until he did. "Richard Edward Harrington." Her voice was ice. "I raised you better than this." "Mother, don't you—" "Mother me, I have been fielding calls all morning. From the club. From our friends. From people I haven't spoken to in 20 years. Everyone has seen that video." "I know." "You know. That's all you have to say. You know." Her voice rose. "Your grandfather built Harrington Properties from nothing. Your father spent his entire life maintaining our family's reputation, and you destroyed it in one morning. One morning, Richard. It was a mistake. A mistake is forgetting someone's birthday. A mistake is sending the wrong email. What you did was not a mistake. What you did was reveal exactly who you are, who your wife is, who your son is." Richard closed his eyes. "I know you're disappointed." "Disappointed?" She laughed bitterly. "Disappointed doesn't begin to cover it. I am ashamed, Richard. I am ashamed to be associated with your family right now." "Mother, please. Don't call me for a while. I need time to process this. And Richard, whatever consequences come your way, you've earned them. Every single one." She hung up. Richard sat very still, holding the dead phone to his ear. His own mother had just disowned him. At 10:00 a.m., the first real blow landed. His phone buzzed with an email notification. Henderson Shopping Group. "Dear Mr. Harrington. After careful consideration and review of recent events, Henderson Shopping Group has decided to terminate all existing contracts with Harrington Properties effective immediately. This decision is final and not subject to appeal. Outstanding payments for completed work will be processed within 30 business days. All ongoing projects will be transferred to alternative contractors. We wish you well in your future endeavors. Sincerely, Gerald Henderson, CEO, Henderson Shopping Group. $18 million. Gone." Richard forwarded the email to Victoria without comment. She called him 30 seconds later, hysterical. "Gerald Henderson. We've known him for 15 years. He was at our anniversary party. How can he just—" "He's protecting his business. He's protecting his reputation. He doesn't want to be associated with us." "But the project's the shopping center renovation. We've already invested. It's gone, Victoria. All of it. Gone." He hung up on her. At 11:30 a.m., another email arrived. Westfield Commercial Partners. Same language. Same cold corporate tone. Same result. Contract terminated. $12 million in ongoing projects. Gone. At 12:15 p.m., another. At 1:00 p.m., another. By 3:00 p.m., Richard had received 7 termination notices. $53 million in active contracts. Erased in a single day. His phone rang constantly. His VP. His CFO. His project managers. Everyone wanted answers. Everyone wanted to know what was happening. He didn't answer any of them. What could he possibly say? At 4:00 p.m., Connor knocked on the study door. "Dad." Richard looked up. His son stood in the doorway looking smaller than Richard had ever seen him. "What is it?" "I've been reading about her online, Maya Richardson." "I told you to stay off the internet." "I know, but I couldn't stop." Connor's voice was shaky. "Dad, she's amazing. Like actually amazing. She invented some kind of technology for airplanes that saved thousands of lives. She testified before Congress about defense spending. She started a foundation that builds schools in Africa." Richard said nothing. "And I threw a croissant at her head." "Yes, you did." Connor's eyes filled with tears. "I keep thinking about her face. When she turned around at the end. She wasn't angry. She wasn't crying. She just looked sad. Like she wasn't surprised. Like she expected it." Richard felt something crack inside his chest. She probably did expect it, Connor. Because things like this have probably happened to her before. Many times. "That's the worst part." Connor's voice broke. "That's the absolute worst part. She expected to be treated like garbage because she's black. And I proved her right." Richard stood up from his desk. He walked over to his son. He put his hands on the boy's shoulders. "Tomorrow you're going to apologize to her. Really apologize. Not because it will make things better. Not because it will fix what you did. But because it's the right thing to do." "What if she doesn't forgive me?" "She probably won't. And that's okay. Forgiveness isn't guaranteed. It's not something you're entitled to just because you say sorry." "Then why apologize at all?" "Because apologizing isn't about getting forgiveness. It's about acknowledging what you did. Taking responsibility. Letting the other person know that you see them. That you understand their pain." Connor wiped his eyes. "I'm scared, Dad." Richard pulled his son into a hug. The first real hug he had given him in months, maybe years. "I'm scared too." Sunday night passed in agony. Victoria couldn't stop crying. She had spent hours going through her Instagram comments reading every hateful message, every accusation, every demand for justice. Her follower count had dropped to 31,000. "They're calling me a racist," she sobbed. "Complete strangers are calling me a racist. A monster. They're saying I should have my son taken away." Victoria stopped reading the comments. "I can't stop. They won't stop coming. There are thousands of them now. Thousands." Richard took her phone away and put it in a drawer. "You need to sleep. We have to be at Richardson Defense Technologies at 9:00 a.m. You need to be coherent." "How can I sleep? How can anyone sleep?" "Then lie in the dark and stare at the ceiling." That's what I've been doing. At midnight, Richard's lawyer called. "James? It's late." "I know. But you need to hear this now." James's voice was grave. "The DA's office is considering charges." Richard's blood went cold. "What kind of charges?" "They're looking at several options. Third-degree assault for Connor. Contributing to the delinquency of a minor for you and Victoria. Possibly harassment charges. Possibly hate crime enhancements." Hate crime. It wasn't a hate crime. "Richard, your wife said, that's what happens when trash doesn't know its place. That's on video. That's being interpreted as racially motivated language." "She didn't mean..." "It doesn't matter what she meant. It matters how it sounds. And it sounds bad. It sounds really, really bad." Richard sat down on the edge of his bed. The room was spinning. "What do we do?" "Tomorrow, after your meeting with Dr. Richardson, we go to the police station for the interview. I'll be there with you. We'll cooperate fully. We'll be apologetic and remorseful. And we'll hope the DA decides prosecution isn't worth the resources. And if they do prosecute, Then we prepare for trial. But let's cross that bridge when we come to it. James hung up. Richard lay back on his bed and stared at the ceiling. Hate crimes. Prosecution. Trial. 48 hours ago, he had been planning his victory celebration. Now he was planning his legal defense. Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. The Harrington family gathered in the kitchen. Nobody spoke. Victoria had chosen her outfit carefully. Conservative dress, minimal jewelry, hair pulled back. She looked like she was going to a funeral. Connor wore a suit. His first suit. They had bought it yesterday in a panic, rushing to the only store open on a Sunday. It didn't fit quite right. Too big in the shoulders, too long in the sleeves. Richard wore his best Tom Ford, the same suit he had planned to wear for his contract presentation. The presentation that would never happen. "Do you know what you're going to say?" Victoria asked. Richard shook his head. "What about you, Connor?" Connor stared at the floor. "I'm going to say sorry. That's all I've got." "It might not be enough," Richard said quietly. "It probably won't be enough, but we say it anyway." They drove to Richardson Defense Technologies in silence. The building loomed ahead of them at 8:45 a.m. 40 stories of glass and steel, the headquarters of a $2.3 billion empire. Richard parked in the visitor lot. His hands were shaking so badly he could barely turn off the engine. "I can't do this," Victoria whispered. "Richard, I can't go in there." "You don't have a choice. She's going to humiliate us. She's going to make us grovel." "Good. We should grovel. We should crawl on our hands and knees like she did on that country club floor." Victoria flinched. They walked through the front doors at 8:55 a.m. The lobby was massive. Security guards flanked the entrance. A reception desk dominated the center of the space. Richard approached the desk. "We're here to see Dr. Richardson. 9 o'clock appointment. The Harrington family." The receptionist's face showed nothing. Professional. Cold. "Of course. Please sign in. I'll let her office know you've arrived." She handed them visitor badges. Richard noticed his name was spelled correctly. She had been expecting them. They waited. The longest 5 minutes of Richard's life passed in that lobby. He watched employees walk by. Some of them glanced at the Harrington family. Some of them whispered to each other. Everyone seemed to know who they were. At exactly 9:00 a.m., a woman appeared. "Mr. and Mrs. Harrington Connor, I'm Rebecca, Dr. Richardson's executive assistant. She's ready for you. Please follow me." They followed Rebecca to an elevator. Up 40 floors. The highest floor, the executive suite. Rebecca led them down a long hallway to a set of double doors. "Dr. Richardson will see you now." She opened the doors. Maya Richardson sat behind her desk. She looked different than she had at the country club. Professional, polished, hair-styled, makeup perfect, a suit that probably cost more than Victoria's car. But her eyes were the same. Calm, steady. The eyes of a woman who had faced worse than this. "Please, sit down." 3 chairs had been arranged in front of her desk. The Harringtons sat. Maya studied them for a long moment. Richard, Victoria, Connor, taking the measure of each one. "Do you know why I asked you here?" "To humiliate us," Victoria blurted. "To get your revenge." Richard shot her a look. Maya's expression didn't change. "No, Mrs. Harrington. I didn't bring you here for revenge. I brought you here so you could look me in the eye." She stood up from her desk, walked around to the front, leaned against the edge so she was looking down at them. "On Saturday, you saw a black woman sitting alone at a corner table, a woman you knew nothing about, a woman who had done nothing to you, and you decided she didn't belong. Nobody spoke. Your son threw food at my head. You laughed. You clapped. You called me trash." Maya's voice was steady. "Your husband threatened to have me arrested. He called me a diversity hire. He suggested I was someone's secretary. Someone's maid. Richard wanted to disappear into his chair. You tore up documents worth more than your country club membership. Contracts with the United States government. Projects that will save lives. You ripped them to shreds and let the pieces fall on the floor like confetti. Victoria was crying now. Silent tears streaming down her face. Your son kicked my briefcase. Scattered my work across the floor. And when I got on my hands and knees to pick it up, chocolate dripping from my hair, you watched. You laughed. You let your 12-year-old throw orange juice at my back. Maya looked at Connor. And then your mother posted it on Instagram, so thousands of people could laugh too. Connor was trembling. His too big suit made him look even smaller. I didn't bring you here for revenge, Maya said again. I brought you here because I wanted you to see me, really see me, not as a woman in jeans, not as someone who doesn't belong. As a human being. A human being you hurt. Richard found his voice. Dr. Richardson, I am so sorry. What we did was inexcusable. There are no words. You're right. There are no words. Maya cut him off. There's nothing you can say that will erase what happened. Nothing that will make me forget the feeling of chocolate dripping down my neck while a room full of people laughed. She turned to Victoria. Mrs. Harrington, you run the Ladies' Auxiliary Committee at Oak Ridge. You've blocked 3 families of color from membership in the past 2 years. The Carters, the Rodriguezes, the Washingtons. All of them more qualified than half your current members. Victoria's eyes went wide. How did you... I did my research. After Saturday, I made some calls, talked to some people. The NAACP has been building a case against Oak Ridge for 2 years. Your name comes up a lot. Victoria looked like she might be sick. You didn't just hurt me, Mrs. Harrington. You've been hurting people like me for years. You've been deciding who belongs and who doesn't based on nothing but skin color. And you've been getting away with it. I never meant... Yes, you did. You meant every word, every rejection, every whispered comment about traditional values and cultural fit. You meant all of it. The only thing you didn't mean to do was get caught. Maya turned to Connor. The boy couldn't meet her eyes. Connor, look at me. He raised his head slowly. His face was streaked with tears. Do you know why you threw that croissant? Because... Connor's voice was barely a whisper. Because I thought you didn't matter. Why did you think I didn't matter? Because you were black, and you were wearing jeans, and you were alone. The words came out in a rush, and everyone was acting like you didn't belong. And I thought I could do whatever I wanted, that nobody would care. Maya nodded slowly. That's the most honest thing anyone in your family has said since you walked in. She walked back around her desk, sat down, folded her hands. I'm not going to pretend this meeting will fix anything. It won't. The damage is done. Your reputation is destroyed. Your business is collapsing. Criminal charges may be coming. None of that is going to go away because you sat in my office and said sorry. Richard felt the last shred of hope die in his chest. But I wanted you to understand something. Maya leaned forward. What you did to me on Saturday, people have been doing to me my entire life. When I was 6 years old, a white woman called me the N-word on a playground. When I was 16, a college counselor told me I should aim lower because people like me don't go to MIT. When I was 30, a bank refused to give me a business loan, even though my credit was perfect. Her voice hardened. Her voice. I built a $2.3 billion company. I employ 12,000 people. I have shaken hands with presidents. And still, when I walk into a room where nobody knows who I am, I get treated like I don't belong. She stood up again, walked to the window, looked out at the city below. That's what your family did. You saw a black woman and made assumptions. You decided I was less than you, inferior to you, unworthy of basic human dignity. She turned back to face them. The contract is gone. $1.5 billion. That decision was made Saturday night. There's nothing you can say or do to change it. Richard nodded. He had expected this. But there is something else. Maya pressed a button on her desk phone. Rebecca, send them in. The office doors opened. Marcus Thompson walked in first, the Oak Ridge Club manager. Behind him came 3 more people, black families, well-dressed, professional. These are the Carters, the Rodriguezes, and the Washingtons, the families your wife blocked from Oak Ridge membership. Victoria's face crumpled. They drove here this morning to meet you, to look you in the eye, the same way you're looking at me right now. One by one, the families stepped forward. Dr. Michael Carter spoke first, a surgeon, Yale Medical School. My daughter asked me why we couldn't join the club where her friends went. She was 8 years old. I didn't know how to tell her it was because of our skin color. Maria Rodriguez, a federal judge. I've spent my career fighting for justice, and I couldn't even get membership to a country club because Victoria Harrington decided I wasn't the right cultural fit. James Washington, a corporate attorney. My sons played golf at the public course while their classmates played at Oak Ridge. They asked me why. I had to explain that some places don't want people who look like us. Victoria was sobbing now, ugly heaving sobs. I'm sorry, she choked out. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. Yes, you did. Maria Rodriguez's voice was cold. You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't care. Maya spoke again. I'm not asking you to forgive the Harringtons. What they did is unforgivable. But I wanted them to see the faces, to know the names, to understand that their prejudice has real victims. She looked at Richard. Mr. Harrington, you're losing your business, your contracts, your reputation, maybe your freedom. All of that is a consequence of your actions. She looked at Victoria. Mrs. Harrington, your social standing is destroyed. Your influencer career is over. The community you controlled has rejected you. She looked at Connor. And you, Connor. You're 12 years old. You have your whole life ahead of you. You can choose to learn from this, to become better, or you can grow up to be exactly like your parents. Connor wiped his eyes. I don't want to be like my parents. The words hit Richard like a physical blow. I don't want to hurt people. I don't want to make someone feel like they don't matter. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. To you. To all of you. He looked at the Carter family, the Rodriguez family, the Washingtons. I know sorry doesn't fix anything. I know you probably hate me. But I'm going to be different. I promise. I'm going to be different. Maya studied the boy for a long moment. Connor, stand up. He stood. Come here. He walked around the desk, stood in front of her. Give me your hand. He extended his hand. She took it. I don't forgive you. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But I believe that you can change. I believe that 12 is young enough to learn, to grow, to become something better than what you've been taught. She squeezed his hand. Don't waste this chance. Don't grow up to be the man your father has been. Be better. Connor nodded, tears streaming down his face. I will. I promise. I'll be better. Maya released his hand. You can all go now. There's nothing more to say. Richard stood on shaking legs. Dr. Richardson, I know we don't deserve it, but is there anything we can do? Anything at all? Maya looked at him with those calm, steady eyes. You want to know what you can do? Change. Actually change. Not for the cameras. Not to save your reputation. Change because you finally understand that every human being deserves dignity, regardless of what they look like, regardless of what they wear, regardless of whether you know their name. She turned back to the window. Now get out of my office. I have a press conference in 2 hours. The Harringtons left. The elevator ride down felt like descending into hell. When they reached the lobby, Richard's phone buzzed. Text from his lawyer. DA just announced. They're filing charges. All 3 of you. Be at the courthouse by 2 p.m. Richard showed the message to Victoria. She read it. Her face went white. What do we do now? Richard looked at his wife, at his son, at the ruins of everything they had built. We face the consequences. That's all we can do. We face what we've earned. They walked out of Richardson Defense Technologies and into the blinding light of Monday morning. Cameras were waiting. The cameras hit them like a wall of light. Reporters surged forward the moment the Harrington family stepped through the doors of Richardson Defense Technologies. Microphones thrust toward their faces. Questions shouted from every direction. Mr. Harrington, do you have a comment on the assault charges? Mrs. Harrington, do you regret your Instagram post? Connor, do you understand what you did was a hate crime? Richard grabbed his wife's arm with one hand and his son's shoulder with the other. He pushed through the crowd head down, saying nothing. Mr. Harrington, the DA says this is a clear case of racial harassment. What's your response? Mrs. Harrington, 3 families are suing Oak Ridge because of you. Do you have anything to say to them? Victoria was sobbing. Connor was shaking. Richard kept moving one foot in front of the other, dragging his family toward their car. A reporter stepped directly in front of him. Mr. Harrington, Maya Richardson's press conference is in 2 hours. Sources say she has audio recording of the entire incident. Care to comment? Richard stopped. Audio recording. She had been recording the whole time. Of course she had. He had seen her save the file on her phone. He had watched her tap that screen. He knew she had evidence, but hearing it said out loud by a reporter with cameras rolling made it real in a way it hadn't been before. No comment, he said through gritted teeth. He pushed past the reporter and reached the car. Got Victoria and Connor inside, slammed the door. The reporters swarmed the vehicle. Cameras pressed against the windows. Faces peered in. Questions kept coming muffled through the glass. Richard started the engine and drove. Slowly at first, then faster, until the crowd fell away behind them. Nobody spoke. At 11:00 a.m., Maya Richardson's press conference began. Richard watched it on his phone from the parking lot of his lawyer's office. He couldn't go inside, couldn't move, could only watch as his life ended in real time. Maya stood at a podium. Cameras flashed. Reporters filled every seat. Good morning. Thank you for coming. Her voice was calm, measured. The voice of a woman who had practiced this moment 1,000 times. On Saturday, May 18th, I attended a benefactor brunch at Oak Ridge Country Club in Greenwich, Connecticut. I was invited by club president Robert Sterling to evaluate the club for a $5 million STEM scholarship donation. She paused. I arrived dressed casually, jeans, a blazer, no jewelry, no designer labels. I wanted to see how the club's members treated someone they didn't recognize, someone who didn't look like she belonged. Maya's eyes found the camera. Within 23 minutes I had my answer. She pressed a button on the podium. Audio filled the room. Victoria's voice, crystal clear. Who let this one in? We've got another charity case trying to eat with the members. The sound of impact. The croissant hitting Maya's head. Victoria's shrieking laugh. Yes, Connor. That's what happens when trash doesn't know its place. Richard's voice. You out before I have you arrested for trespassing. The audio continued. Every insult, every laugh, every moment of cruelty captured in perfect digital clarity. Richard listened to himself threaten a woman he had never met. Listened to his wife rip up documents and mock someone on her hands and knees. Listened to his son throw orange juice at a stranger's back while his parents cheered. 23 minutes of evidence. 23 minutes of proof that the Harrington family were exactly who the world now believed them to be. The audio stopped. Maya spoke again. I recorded this encounter because I have learned through decades of experience that my word alone is never enough. When a black woman says she was mistreated, she is questioned, doubted, accused of exaggerating. So I document everything, every insult, every microaggression, every moment when someone reveals who they really are. She held up her phone. This recording is 23 minutes and 49 seconds long. It captures assault, harassment, racial discrimination, all committed in front of over 100 witnesses who did nothing to help. Maya lowered the phone. Today, I am announcing 3 actions. First, I am filing a civil lawsuit against Richard Victoria and Connor Harrington for assault, battery, defamation, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We are seeking $15 million in damages. Richard felt his stomach drop. $15 million. Second, I am supporting a class action lawsuit against Oak Ridge Country Club. 3 families of color were denied membership over the past 2 years due to systematic discrimination. We have documented evidence of racial bias in the membership committee led by Victoria Harrington. Victoria. They were naming Victoria specifically. Third, I am establishing the Beyond Appearances Foundation. $10 million of my personal funds dedicated to fighting discrimination and supporting victims of racial harassment. Maya paused, looked directly into the camera. The Harringtons looked at me and saw a woman who didn't belong. They saw jeans and assumed I was nobody. They saw brown skin and decided I was less than them. Her voice hardened. They were wrong, and now they will face the consequences of their assumptions. She stepped back from the podium. I'll take a few questions. Hands shot up. Voices shouted. Dr. Richardson, do you believe the Harringtons are racist? I believe their actions were racist. Whether that reflects who they are as people is not for me to judge. What do you want to happen to them? I want accountability. I want consequences. I want other people who think they can treat someone like garbage because of their skin color to see what happens when they're wrong. Do you think you'll ever forgive them? Maya was quiet for a moment. Forgiveness is a process. It's not something I can predict. Right now I'm focused on justice. What about Connor? He's only 12 years old. 12 is old enough to know that throwing food at a stranger is wrong. 12 is old enough to understand that actions have consequences. Maya's eyes softened slightly. But 12 is also young enough to change. I hope Connor uses this experience to become a better person than his parents taught him to be. Richard's phone screen blurred. He realized he was crying. At 2:00 p.m., the Harrington family arrived at the Greenwich courthouse. More cameras, more reporters, more questions. James Morrison met them at the door. His face was grim. The charges are serious. Third-degree assault for Connor to be handled in juvenile court, contributing to the delinquency of a minor for both of you. Harassment with hate crime enhancements. Hate crime. Victoria's voice cracked. They're actually calling it a hate crime. Your statements on the audio recording make it clear the attack was racially motivated. The DA is taking this seriously. They walked into the courthouse, through security, down a hallway that felt like it went on forever. The courtroom was packed. Media, spectators, people who had driven hours just to watch the Harringtons face justice. Richard saw faces he recognized. Former business partners, country club members, people who had smiled at him 2 days ago and now looked at him like he was something they had scraped off their shoe. The judge entered. Everyone stood. Case number 2024 CR 11847, the people of Connecticut versus Richard Harrington, Victoria Harrington, and Connor Harrington. The judge looked down at the Harrington family. How did the defendants plead? James stepped forward. Not guilty, Your Honor, on all counts. The words felt like lies in Richard's mouth. He was guilty. They all were. Everyone in this room knew it. The judge nodded. Bail is set at $50,000 for Richard Harrington, $50,000 for Victoria Harrington. Connor Harrington will be released to his parents' custody pending juvenile proceedings. $50,000 each. Richard could afford it, barely. But 6 months ago, $50,000 would have been nothing. 6 months from now, it might be everything he had left. They posted bail, signed papers, went through procedures that felt surreal, like something happening to someone else. At 4:30 p.m., they walked out of the courthouse. More cameras, more questions, more faces twisted with disgust. Mr. Harrington, how does it feel to be charged with a hate crime? Mrs. Harrington, the NAACP is calling for maximum sentencing. Your response? Connor, Do you understand you might go to juvenile detention? Richard kept his head down and kept walking. They reached the car, got inside, drove away. Victoria broke down completely. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't go to jail, Richard. I can't. We're not going to jail. You heard what they said. Hate crime enhancements, maximum sentencing. They want to make an example of us. James said he can negotiate, plea deals, reduce charges, community service. Community service? Victoria laughed hysterically. I'm supposed to pick up trash on the side of the highway because our son threw a croissant. Victoria, stop. No, I won't stop. This is insane. It was a stupid prank, a joke, and now they're treating us like criminals. We are criminals. Richard's voice was flat, dead. We assaulted someone. We harassed her. We humiliated her in front of 100 people. We posted it online. We are criminals, Victoria. The sooner you accept that, the better. Victoria went quiet. Her sobs became silent. Her body shook. Connor sat in the back seat staring out the window. Dad. What? Am I going to juvie? Richard looked at his son in the rearview mirror. This boy he had raised. This child who had never faced a consequence. This 12-year-old who was now facing the possibility of juvenile detention. I don't know, Connor. I honestly don't know. The next 3 weeks were hell. Richard's business continued to collapse. Contract after contract terminated. Client after client disappeared. His employees started quitting one by one, unable to work for a man whose name had become synonymous with racism. By the end of the first week, he had laid off 30 people. By the end of the second week, 60. By the end of the third week, he was down to a skeleton crew desperately trying to salvage what little remained. His CFO resigned on day 12. I'm sorry, Richard. I can't be associated with this. I have my own reputation to consider. His VP of operations left on day 15. The board is talking about removing you. I don't want to be here when that happens. His lawyer called on day 18 with more bad news. The bank is calling your loans. All of them. $50 million due in 90 days. That's impossible. We had 5-year terms. The terms included morality clauses, standard language about actions that damage the company's reputation. They're invoking them. They can't do that. They can do whatever they want, Richard. You signed the contracts. $50 million, due in 90 days. Richard didn't have $50 million. Not anymore. His assets were tied up in properties that nobody wanted to buy. His income had collapsed. His credit was destroyed. He was going to lose everything. Victoria's destruction was different but equally complete. Her Instagram account was reported thousands of times. Deleted by the platform, restored, deleted again. When it finally stayed up, she had 18,000 followers left. Less than half of what she had started with. Her brand deals were gone. Every single one. Luxury brands didn't want to be associated with racism. They didn't want their products appearing next to the woman who had laughed while a child threw food at a black CEO. Her friends stopped calling. One by one they disappeared. Women she had known for 20 years. Women she had vacationed with, celebrated with, shared secrets with. Gone. She tried reaching out. Texts went unanswered. Calls went to voicemail. Emails bounced back undelivered. They've blocked me, she told Richard on day 14. Everyone has blocked me. I'm completely alone. You have me. You have Connor. That's not the same. You don't understand. Those women were my life. They were my identity. Without them, I don't know who I am. Maybe that's the problem, Richard said quietly. Maybe your identity shouldn't depend on what other people think of you. Victoria didn't answer. She just sat on the couch, scrolling through her empty phone, looking for connections that no longer existed. Connor's destruction was the hardest to watch. Berkshire Academy, his third private school, expelled him on day 3. The decision was unanimous. No appeals, no second chances. The board has determined that Connor's continued enrollment poses an unacceptable risk to our community and reputation, the headmaster wrote. We are returning your library wing donation in full. Victoria called 4 other private schools. All of them had waiting lists. All of them said they would be in touch. None of them called back. On day 10, Connor started at Greenwich Public High School. He came home that first day with tears streaming down his face. Everyone knows. Everyone. They were whispering about me in the halls. Someone yelled "croissant boy" at me in the cafeteria. A teacher asked if I was that Harrington kid, like I was some kind of monster. It will get better, Victoria said. People will forget. They won't forget. It's everywhere. Someone made a TikTok remix of Mom laughing. It has 4 million views. 4 million. Richard pulled up TikTok on his phone. He found the video. Victoria's laugh auto-tuned and remixed into a dance track. 4.2 million views. Hundreds of thousands of comments. This is the worst sound I've ever heard. Imagine being this kid and having this as your mom. The family that hates together fails together. He put the phone away. Connor, look at me. His son looked up. 12 years old. Face red and blotchy. Eyes swollen. This is going to be hard. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done. People are going to be cruel. They're going to say things that hurt. They're going to judge you for something you did when you were 12 years old. That's not fair. No, it's not. But neither was what you did to Maya Richardson. You humiliated her in front of 100 people. Now you're being humiliated in front of millions. That's not fair either. But it's the consequence of your actions. Connor was crying harder now. I said I was sorry. I meant it. Why doesn't that matter? Sorry matters. But sorry doesn't erase what happened. Sorry doesn't undo the damage. You can be sorry and still face consequences. That's how the world works. I hate the world. Richard pulled his son into a hug. I know. I hate it too right now. But we're going to get through this, together, as a family. He held his son and wondered if he was telling the truth. On day 21, the class action lawsuit against Oak Ridge Country Club made national news. The NAACP had assembled devastating evidence. 17 families of color rejected over the past 5 years. All of them overqualified. All of them denied for vague reasons like cultural fit and community alignment. Internal emails surfaced. Victoria's communications with other committee members, coded language that anyone could decode. The Williams application. They seem like lovely people, but I'm not sure they'd fit our atmosphere. The Patel family. Very accomplished, of course, but we need to be careful about changing the character of our community too quickly. The Johnsons. I've heard concerns from other members. Perhaps we should wait for a more suitable candidate. Victoria read the emails out loud, her voice shaking. I don't even remember writing these. I don't remember any of this. You wrote them, Richard said. Your email address, your signature, your words. But I'm not racist. I never thought of myself as racist. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe you never thought about it at all. Maybe you just did what felt natural, what felt right, without ever questioning why. Victoria put her head in her hands. What's going to happen to us? Richard didn't answer. He was looking at his phone. A new email had arrived from the Oak Ridge Country Club Board of Directors. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Harrington, after careful deliberation, the Board of Directors has voted to permanently revoke your family's membership at Oak Ridge Country Club effective immediately. Your access cards have been deactivated. Please arrange to collect any personal belongings from your locker within 14 days. This decision is final and not subject to appeal. Sincerely, Robert Sterling, President, Oak Ridge Country Club. Richard showed Victoria the email. She read it. Her face crumpled. They can't do this. We've been members for 18 years. We donated the Garden Pavilion. We hosted the Spring Gala for a decade. They can do whatever they want. It's a private club. They have standards, traditions. Richard laughed bitterly. Isn't that what we always said about the people we rejected? Victoria threw her phone across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. I hate this. I hate all of this. I hate that woman for ruining our lives. Maya Richardson didn't ruin our lives. We did. We did this to ourselves. Stop saying that. Stop acting like this is all our fault. It is all our fault. Richard's voice rose for the first time in weeks. Every single thing that's happening to us is a direct result of what we did, what we chose to do. Nobody forced us to treat her like garbage. Nobody forced you to laugh and clap while our son threw food at a stranger. Nobody forced any of us to be the people we were that morning. Victoria was crying again. Hard, ugly sobs. I don't know how to be someone else. I don't know how to be different. Then learn. Because the people we were got us here, and if we don't change, we're going to lose everything, including each other. The silence stretched between them, broken only by Victoria's sobs and the distant sound of traffic outside. On day 28, the settlement negotiations began. James Morrison called Richard into his office with news that was both good and bad. Maya Richardson's team is willing to negotiate. They're not looking for maximum damages. They want accountability, not destruction. What does that mean? It means they might accept a lower settlement, 10 million instead of 15. Maybe less, depending on what else you're willing to offer. What else could I possibly offer? Public apology, televised, complete admission of wrongdoing. James paused. And community service. Not the standard highway cleanup. Something meaningful. Something that demonstrates actual change. Like what? They want you to work with the Beyond Appearances Foundation, Maya Richardson's new organization, diversity training, public speaking about unconscious bias, real engagement with communities you've historically avoided. Richard sat back in his chair. She wants us to become advocates against racism. She wants you to do something useful with your guilt, yes. And if we refuse, then we go to trial. You'll probably lose. The evidence is overwhelming. The jury pool is poisoned against you. And even if by some miracle you win, you'll have spent years and millions of dollars defending yourself. Your business will be gone. Your reputation will never recover. It's not going to recover anyway. No. But there's a difference between being the family that committed a racist assault and being the family that committed a racist assault and then spent years fighting against accountability. James leaned forward. Take the deal, Richard. Take whatever deal they offer. It's the only path forward that doesn't end in complete annihilation. Richard was quiet for a long moment. I need to talk to Victoria. And Connor. Of course, but don't take too long. This offer won't last forever. That night, Richard gathered his family in the living room. They looked broken. All of them. Victoria had lost 15 pounds. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair unwashed. Connor was quiet all the time now. He came home from school, went to his room, and didn't come out until dinner. Maya Richardson's lawyers made an offer. Victoria looked up. Hope flickered in her eyes. What kind of offer? Settlement, reduced damages. But there are conditions. What conditions? Richard explained. The public apology, the community service, the work with the foundation. Victoria's face went through a dozen emotions. Hope, confusion, anger, fear. She wants us to work for her after everything. She wants us to do something useful, to turn this into something positive. It's humiliating. More humiliating than a trial, more humiliating than years of legal battles, more humiliating than what we've already been through. Victoria didn't answer. I want to do it. They both turned. Connor was sitting forward, his eyes clear for the first time in weeks. I want to do the community service. I want to work with the foundation. I want to do something that actually helps people. Connor, you don't have to. Yes, I do. His voice was firm. I threw food at a woman I didn't know because of the color of her skin. I hurt her. I humiliated her. And then I watched my parents make it worse. He looked at his mother. Mom, you laughed. You clapped. You posted it online like it was funny. Victoria's face crumpled. I need to do something that matters. Something that makes up for what I did. I know I can't erase it. I know people will always remember. But maybe if I work really hard, I can become someone different, someone better. Richard felt tears prick his eyes. Connor. Dr. Richardson said I was young enough to change. She said I could be better than what you taught me to be. He looked at his father. I want to prove her right. I want to be different. The room was silent. Victoria wiped her eyes. If Connor's doing it, I'll do it too. I don't want to be the person I was. I don't want to be someone who laughs at other people's pain. Richard looked at his wife, at his son, at this family he had built and nearly destroyed. Then we do it together, all of us. We take the deal. We do the work. We become different people. He pulled out his phone and called his lawyer. James, tell them we accept. The line was quiet for a moment. All conditions. All conditions. Public apology, community service, foundation work, whatever they want. I'll let them know, Richard. This is the right decision. I know, I just hope it's enough. Richard hung up and looked at his family. For the first time in 4 weeks, Victoria was almost smiling. Connor's shoulders had lost some of their tension. They weren't okay. They weren't anywhere close to okay. But they had a path forward. A chance to become something other than the villains of this story. Whether they could actually walk that path remained to be seen. But for the first time since a chocolate croissant flew across a country club terrace, Richard Harrington felt something that might have been hope. The public apology happened 6 weeks after the incident at Oak Ridge Country Club. Richard stood backstage at the Greenwich Community Center, his hands shaking so badly he could barely hold his note cards. Victoria stood beside him, pale and trembling. Connor sat in a chair nearby, staring at the floor. The auditorium was packed. 300 people, reporters, cameras, representatives from the NAACP, members of the families who had been rejected from Oak Ridge. And in the front row, Dr. Maya Richardson herself. You don't have to read from notes, James Morrison said quietly. Just speak from the heart. Tell them the truth. What if I forget what to say? Then say whatever comes to mind. The worst thing you can do is sound rehearsed. These people want to see genuine remorse, not a performance. Richard looked at his note cards, 3 pages of carefully crafted apologies, every word vetted by lawyers and PR consultants. He tore them in half. Victoria's eyes went wide. Richard, what are you doing? Being honest. For once in my life. A stage manager appeared. Mr. Harrington, they're ready for you. Richard took a deep breath. He looked at his wife, his son. Let's go. They walked onto the stage together. The lights were blinding. The silence was deafening. 300 pairs of eyes fixed on them with emotions ranging from curiosity to contempt. Richard approached the microphone. My name is Richard Harrington. This is my wife Victoria. And this is my son Connor. His voice cracked on the first sentence. 6 weeks ago, we did something unforgivable. He looked out at the audience, found Maya Richardson's face in the front row. Her expression was neutral, unreadable. We saw a black woman sitting alone at a country club brunch. A woman we knew nothing about. A woman who had done nothing to us. And we decided she didn't belong. His hands were shaking. He gripped the podium. My son threw food at her head. I threatened to have her arrested. My wife tore up her documents and posted a video mocking her humiliation online. Victoria made a small sound beside him. He kept going. We did these things because we looked at Maya Richardson and saw someone who didn't matter. Someone beneath us. Someone whose dignity was worth less than our entertainment. He paused. The room was completely silent. I could stand here and make excuses. I could tell you we didn't know who she was. I could tell you it was a misunderstanding. A moment of poor judgment. A prank that went too far. Richard shook his head. But those would be lies. We knew exactly what we were doing. We just didn't care, because we had spent our entire lives believing that certain people mattered less, that we were entitled to treat anyone we deemed inferior however we wanted. He looked at the families in the audience. The Carters, the Rodriguezes, the Washingtons. My wife blocked your membership applications, not because you weren't qualified. You were all more qualified than most of our members. She blocked you because of your skin color, because she didn't think people who looked like you belonged in our world. Victoria was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I knew what she was doing. I never said anything. I benefited from a system that kept people out and pretended it was just business as usual. Richard's voice broke. I taught my son that he could do whatever he wanted without consequences, that money and connections would always protect him, that some people were just born to be on top and others were born to serve. He looked at Connor. And then I watched him prove me right. I watched him throw food at a stranger and I was proud. I high-fived my 12-year-old son for assaulting an innocent woman. Connor stepped forward. His voice was small but clear. I want to say something. Richard nodded and stepped back. Connor approached the microphone. His hands were shaking worse than his father's. My name is Connor Harrington. I'm 12 years old, and I did something terrible. He looked directly at Maya Richardson. I threw food at you because you were black and wearing jeans. I thought that meant you didn't matter. I thought I could do whatever I wanted because nobody would care. His voice cracked. I was wrong. You're one of the most amazing people I've ever read about. You built a company from nothing. You helped thousands of people. You're brilliant and successful and kind. And I treated you like garbage because I couldn't see past my own prejudice. Tears were streaming down his face. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know you might never forgive me. But I wanted you to know that I see you now. I see who you really are. And I'm ashamed of who I was. He stepped back. Victoria moved forward. Her voice was barely a whisper. I'm Victoria Harrington, and I've been a racist my entire life without ever admitting it. The words hung in the air. I told myself I wasn't. I told myself I had black friends, that I donated to charities, that I believed in equality. She laughed bitterly. But when a black woman showed up at my country club wearing jeans, I treated her like an intruder, like an animal, like something less than human. She was sobbing now. I laughed while my son threw food at her head. I clapped. I cheered. I posted it online so everyone could laugh with me. Victoria looked at Maya. I tore up your documents. Documents worth more than my entire jewelry collection. I did it to humiliate you, to show you that you didn't matter, that people like you would never be welcome in my world. She wiped her eyes. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know those words are meaningless coming from me. I know I can't undo what I did, but I wanted you to hear me say them. I was wrong. I was hateful. I was everything I always told myself I wasn't. She stepped back. Richard returned to the microphone. We've agreed to settlement terms. We're paying damages. We're doing community service. We're working with the Beyond Appearances Foundation. He paused. But I want to be clear about something. We're not doing this to repair our reputation. We're not doing this to get our lives back. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do. Because we finally understand that our actions caused real harm to real people. He looked at Maya Richardson one more time. Dr. Richardson, I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want to thank you for forcing us to look in the mirror, for showing us who we really were, for giving us the opportunity to become someone different. He stepped back from the podium. The room was silent for a long moment. Then slowly Maya Richardson stood. She walked to the stage, climbed the steps, approached the Harrington family. Richard braced himself. He didn't know what to expect. Anger, contempt, a slap across the face. He would have deserved any of it. Maya stopped in front of Connor. Look at me. Connor raised his head. His face was streaked with tears. You threw food at me. You humiliated me in front of 100 people. You made me feel like I was worth nothing. Connor nodded miserably. But today you stood up in front of 300 people and admitted what you did. You took responsibility. You showed genuine remorse. She extended her hand. That takes courage. More courage than most adults ever show. Connor looked at her hand like he didn't understand. Shake it, Maya said. This isn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it's a beginning. Connor reached out with a trembling hand and shook Maya Richardson's hand. The cameras flashed. The audience murmured. Maya turned to Victoria. Mrs. Harrington, you blocked 3 families from joining your club because of their skin color. You used your position to perpetuate discrimination. Victoria nodded, unable to speak. But you also stood up here today and admitted it. You called yourself a racist. You acknowledged what you did. Maya's voice softened slightly. That's the first step, the hardest step. Most people never take it. She extended her hand to Victoria. Victoria took it, sobbing. Thank you. Thank you for giving us a chance. Don't thank me yet. You have a lot of work to do. We all do. Maya turned to Richard. Mr. Harrington, you lost your business, your reputation, your standing in your community. You're facing criminal charges that may result in conviction. Richard nodded. I hope you understand that none of this is my revenge. I didn't set out to destroy you. I set out to hold you accountable. There's a difference. I know. Good. Maya extended her hand. Then let's get to work. Richard shook her hand. And for the first time since that Saturday morning, he felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward. The next 6 months were the hardest of Richard Harrington's life. He sold the mansion, paid off the settlement, paid off what remained of his debts, moved his family into a 3-bedroom apartment in Stamford, a building he never would have looked at twice a year ago. Victoria got a job, part-time at a community center, helping organize events, making phone calls, doing work she would have considered beneath her dignity 6 months earlier. She came home tired every day, but she also came home changed. There's this kid, she told Richard one evening. Marcus. He's 14. His mom works 2 jobs. He comes to the center every day after school because there's nobody home. Yeah. He's brilliant. Like genuinely brilliant. He wants to be an engineer. But his school doesn't have advanced math classes. The counselor told him he should consider trade school. Richard heard the anger in her voice. Real anger. Not the petty resentment she used to feel about bad service at restaurants. What did you do? I called Maya's foundation. They have a tutoring program. They're going to set Marcus up with an MIT student who can help him with calculus. She was smiling. A real smile. The first one Richard had seen in months. That's great, Victoria. It's nothing. It's just one kid, but... She trailed off. But what? But I keep thinking about all the other kids. All the people I dismissed without ever seeing them. All the potential I ignored because it came in the wrong packaging. She sat down heavily. I wasted so much time caring about the wrong things. Instagram followers, country club committees, designer bags. She shook her head. None of it mattered. None of it made me happy. I was just filling a void with expensive garbage. Richard took her hand. We're not those people anymore. No, we're not. She squeezed his hand. I think I like who we're becoming better. Connor's transformation was the most remarkable. He started volunteering at the Beyond Appearances Foundation 3 days a week. After school, he would take the bus to their community center and help with whatever needed doing. At first, the other kids were hostile. They knew who he was. They had seen the videos. Some of them called him names. Some of them refused to speak to him at all. Connor took it. He kept showing up, kept working, kept trying. 2 months in, something shifted. A girl named Destiny, 13 years old, approached him during a tutoring session. "You're that kid from the video." Connor tensed. "Yeah." "The one who threw food at that lady?" "Yeah." Destiny studied him for a long moment. "My mom showed me that video. She said it was a perfect example of how some white people really think about us." Connor didn't know what to say. "But you're here now. Every day. Helping out." Destiny tilted her head. "Why?" "Because I want to be different." "Different how?" "Different than who I was. Different than who my parents taught me to be." Connor took a breath. "I hurt someone who didn't deserve it. I can't take that back. But I can try to do some good. Try to help people instead of hurting them." Destiny was quiet for a moment. "You know what's crazy? That lady you threw food at? She paid for my mom's nursing school, through her foundation. Mom got her degree last year. Now she works at the hospital." Connor stared at her. "Maya Richardson changed my family's life, and you threw a croissant at her head." "I know. I'm sorry." "Yeah." Destiny shrugged. "But you're here now. That counts for something, I guess." She walked away. Connor went back to work. The criminal charges were resolved 4 months after the incident. The DA offered a plea deal, community service, probation. No jail time for any of them. The judge agreed, citing the Harringtons' cooperation and genuine efforts at rehabilitation. James Morrison called with the news. "It's over, Richard. You got the best outcome you could have possibly gotten." "It doesn't feel like winning." "It's not winning. It's surviving. That's all you could have hoped for." Richard hung up and told his family. Victoria cried with relief. Connor just nodded quietly. "Does this mean we can stop volunteering?" Victoria asked. "Do you want to stop?" She thought about it, about Marcus, who had just tested into advanced placement math, about the other families she had met, about the work that still needed to be done. "No, I don't want to stop." "Neither do I," Connor said. Richard smiled. "Then we don't stop." 1 year after the incident at Oak Ridge Country Club, Maya Richardson stood on a stage at a civil rights conference in Atlanta. 5,000 people filled the auditorium. Leaders, activists, survivors, people who had spent their lives fighting for equality. Maya looked out at the crowd and felt something she hadn't expected to feel. Hope. 1 year ago, she began. "I attended a benefactor brunch at a country club in Connecticut. I was there to evaluate the club for a major donation. I dressed casually on purpose. I wanted to see how they treated someone they didn't recognize." The audience knew the story. Everyone knew the story. It had become a touchstone, a case study, a rallying cry. "Within 23 minutes, a 12-year-old boy threw food at my head. His parents laughed. They told me I didn't belong. They accused me of theft and trespassing. They treated me like I was less than human." Maya paused. "I could have let it destroy me. I could have retreated into bitterness and anger. I could have spent my life hating the people who hurt me." She shook her head. "Instead, I chose accountability. I filed charges. I pursued justice. I forced the people who hurt me to face consequences." She smiled. And something unexpected happened. The audience leaned forward. The Harringtons changed. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "I know. I was skeptical too. When people show you who they are, you believe them. And the Harringtons showed me exactly who they were that Saturday morning." Maya's voice softened. "But people are not static. We are capable of growth, of transformation, of becoming something better than what we were." She gestured to the side of the stage. "I'd like to introduce you to someone." Connor Harrington walked out from the wings. The audience went silent. Some people tensed. Some looked angry. Some looked confused. Connor approached the podium. He was 13 now. Taller. Different. "My name is Connor Harrington." 1 year ago I threw food at Dr. Richardson because she was black, and I thought that meant she didn't matter. His voice was steady. I was wrong. I was racist. I was cruel. And I spent the last year trying to become someone different. He looked at the audience. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't expect you to like me, but I wanted you to know that change is possible. Even for someone like me. Even for someone who did what I did. Connor pulled out a piece of paper. This is a letter I wrote to Dr. Richardson 6 months ago. She kept it. She asked me to read it today. He unfolded the paper. Dear Dr. Richardson, I've been volunteering at your foundation for 3 months. Every day I meet kids who are smarter than me, kinder than me, more talented than me. Kids who have overcome obstacles I can't even imagine. Kids whose only crime was being born with less money or a different skin color. His voice cracked. I used to think I was special because of who my family was. Now I know I was just lucky. Lucky to be born white and rich. Lucky to never have to prove myself. Lucky to coast through life on advantages I didn't earn. He wiped his eyes. I'm not lucky anymore. I lost my school, my friends, my reputation. I had to start over with nothing but my own 2 hands and whatever goodness I could scrape together. He looked at Maya. And you know what I'm grateful. Because now I know who I really am. Not the entitled kid who threw food at strangers. But someone who shows up every day and tries to help. Someone who listens to people instead of dismissing them. Someone who sees human beings instead of stereotypes. He folded the paper. I'm still learning. I still make mistakes. But I'm not the person I was a year ago. And I never will be again. He stepped back. The audience was silent. Then slowly someone started clapping. One person. Then another. Then another. Not everyone joined in. Some people sat with their arms crossed. Some people shook their heads. Some people left. But enough people clapped that the sound filled the auditorium. Connor's eyes filled with tears. Maya put her hand on his shoulder. This is what accountability looks like, she told the audience. Not just punishment, not just revenge, but transformation, growth, the hard, painful work of becoming better. She looked at Connor. I don't fully trust the Harringtons yet. Trust is earned over years, not months. But I believe that change is possible. I have to believe it. Because if change is impossible, then what are we fighting for? She turned back to the crowd. Every one of you has faced discrimination. Every one of you has been treated like you didn't matter. Every one of you knows what it feels like to be judged by your skin color instead of your character. Her voice rose. And every one of you has a choice. You can let that pain turn into permanent bitterness. You can hate everyone who ever hurt you until the day you die. She shook her head. Or you can fight, not just against discrimination, but for transformation, for the possibility that people can change, that systems can change, that the world can become something better than what it is. Maya looked out at the 5,000 faces watching her. I built a $2.3 billion company. I employ 12,000 people. I've shaken hands with presidents and testified before Congress. But none of that is my legacy. She pointed at Connor. That boy is my legacy. The possibility of change. The proof that even the most hateful person can become something different if they're willing to do the work. She smiled. My mother used to say that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. I've spent my life trying to bend that arc a little faster. Her voice hardened with conviction. 1 year ago, a 12-year-old boy threw food at my head because he thought I didn't matter. Today, that same boy is standing on this stage telling his story to thousands of people, helping me fight for a world where no one has to feel the way I felt that morning. She raised her chin. That's not defeat. That's victory. The only victory that actually matters. The applause was thunderous. Maya stepped back from the podium. Connor stood beside her. The audience rose to their feet. Not everyone stood. Not everyone clapped. Not everyone believed that change was possible, or that the Harringtons deserved a second chance. But enough people did. Enough people believed in the possibility of transformation. Enough people understood that justice wasn't just about punishment. It was about creating a world where everyone, even former enemies, could become something better. 3 years later, Connor Harrington graduated from high school. He gave the commencement speech, not as valedictorian, not as the most popular kid, but as someone who had earned the right to speak through years of hard work and genuine transformation. When I was 12 years old, he told his classmates, I threw food at a stranger because of the color of her skin. I thought I was better than her. I thought my family's money and status made me superior. He paused. I was wrong, and I've spent the last 3 years proving it. He looked at his parents in the audience. Richard and Victoria sitting together holding hands, still married, still working at it, still becoming different people. My parents lost everything because of what we did. Our money, our reputation, our friends, our place in society. We went from being one of the most prominent families in Greenwich to being people nobody wanted to know. He smiled. And it was the best thing that ever happened to us. The audience shifted. Some people looked uncomfortable, some looked curious. Because when you lose everything, you find out who you really are. Not who your parents raised you to be. Not who society expects you to be. But who you actually are when all the privileges are stripped away. Connor's voice strengthened. I discovered that I was capable of change. That I could become someone who helps people instead of hurting them. That I could look at the world with compassion instead of contempt. He looked at a woman in the front row. Maya Richardson, there at his invitation. I also discovered that forgiveness is possible. Dr. Richardson gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one. She let me work at her foundation. She let me prove that I could be different. She believed in the possibility of transformation when most people would have written me off as a lost cause. Maya nodded slightly. A small acknowledgement. I'm going to college next year. Full scholarship. I'm going to study social work. I'm going to spend my life helping people who have been marginalized and dismissed. People like the woman I once threw food at. He took a breath. I can't change what I did when I was 12. I can't erase the pain I caused. But I can choose who I become from this moment forward. And I choose to be someone who makes the world better, not worse. He looked out at his classmates. Every one of you has the same choice. You can coast through life on whatever advantages you were born with. You can dismiss people who look different or come from different backgrounds. You can decide that some people matter and some people don't. His voice hardened. Or you can wake up. You can see people for who they really are instead of who you assume them to be. You can fight against the prejudices you were taught and become something better. He stepped back from the podium. The world doesn't care about your test scores or your college acceptances or your Instagram followers. The world cares about how you treat other human beings. That's the only thing that actually matters in the end. He paused. I learned that lesson the hard way. I hope you don't have to. He walked off the stage. The applause followed him. Genuine. Earned. After the ceremony, Maya Richardson approached Connor in the parking lot. That was a good speech. Connor shrugged. I meant every word. I know. That's what made it good. They stood together in silence for a moment. Two people whose lives had collided in the worst possible way and somehow found a path forward. Dr. Richardson, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you forgive me? Really forgive me? Maya thought about it. Really thought about it. Yes, she finally said. I do. Connor's eyes filled with tears. Why, after everything I did? Because you earned it. You showed up every day. You did the work. You became someone different. Maya smiled. And because holding on to anger is exhausting, I'd rather use that energy to build something good. She extended her hand. Connor took it. Thank you. For everything. Don't thank me. Just keep proving that change is possible. That's all I ask. I will. I promise. Maya nodded. She turned and walked toward her car. Connor watched her go. This woman he had once dismissed as worthless. This woman who had shown him that dignity has no dress code. This woman who had given him a second chance he didn't deserve and watched him grow into someone worthy of it. His father appeared beside him. "You okay?" "Yeah." Connor wiped his eyes. "Yeah, I'm okay." Richard put his arm around his son. "I'm proud of you. You know that, right?" "I know. Not proud of who you were, proud of who you've become." Connor nodded. They stood together, father and son, watching Maya Richardson drive away. "Dad." "Yeah. Do you think people will ever forget what we did?" Richard was quiet for a moment. "No, they won't. What we did is part of our story now. It always will be." "Then how do we live with that?" Richard looked at his son. "We don't try to make people forget. We make them remember something else too. The work we've done. The change we've made. The people we've helped. We can't erase the bad chapter. But we can write better chapters after it." Connor nodded slowly. "I can live with that." "Me too." They walked toward the car together. Richard, Victoria, and Connor. A family that had been broken and rebuilt. A family that had lost everything and found something more valuable. Not redemption. Not erasure of the past. Just the hard daily work of becoming better people. And the understanding that change, real change, was always possible for those willing to do the work. Maya Richardson's final words from that press conference 3 years earlier still echoed in their minds. Character has no dress code. Respect isn't reserved for people you recognize. Dignity isn't determined by designer labels. The Harringtons had learned that lesson the hard way. They had paid for it with everything they thought mattered. And in losing everything, they had finally found what actually did. The sun was setting over Greenwich as they drove home. The same town where it had all begun. The same streets they had once ruled with their wealth and status. They were different now. The town knew it. The world knew it. And for the first time in their lives, they were genuinely proud of who they were becoming. Not because of their money, not because of their connections, not because of their name, but because they had faced the worst parts of themselves and chosen to change. That was a victory no one could ever take away.